Mr. Clerk.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'll like a motion to reconvene. Someone want to make a motion to reconvene?
Yeah. So, Mayor, I wanted to make sure we're proper. Can we just reconvene? I don't know who's, and I know it was improper for me to make a motion for us to take a 30-minute break.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. We just took a lunch break. We just agreed on that.
Yeah.
I don't think we probably need.
Yeah.
All right. Mr. Clerk, you think that's proper? Am I thinking correct?
Like we're not voting.
Yeah, I think that's in order.
Okay. All right. Sign the next item, please.
The next budget presentation will be by the city clerk's office.
Oh. Go ahead, Mr. City Clerk.
And just needed to queue up the presentation. One moment, the computer has frozen. One moment.
More about it, I'll clean it up.
Okay, I think we're going to use the previous slide while the other one is loading. Well, good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of council, other stakeholders, and the general public. My name is Corey Adams. I serve as city clerk, and it's my pleasure to present the FY22 budget presentation for the city clerk's office. City clerk office serves as the official record keeper for the city, including open records, the administrative entity for council meetings, and the superintendent for municipal elections. Our mission is to provide efficient, responsive, and accurate information with the highest integrity and professionalism. We are a small department, but we would like to believe that we're one of the most important departments. I will start off with our FY22 goals and objectives. Many of these goals and objectives are in line with our mission to provide efficient, responsive, and accurate information. And we intend to do that through the use of technology. Number one on our list here is procure and implementation of a new online legislative review process and coordinating with the Information and Technology Department. This also goes in line with the second bullet point to procure and implement a new meeting management system, which includes a boards and commissions management component. And we're also doing that in line with the Information Technology Department. Those are going to be two critical objectives that we hope to achieve in FY22. And we believe that it will improve the process to move legislation and ideas throughout the city and ultimately before council for consideration. We have done significant work in both of these areas, and we're hopeful that by October, we'll be able to have a system that meets all of our needs. The third bullet point is reconcile all agreements and contracts approved by council and update the website. This has been a challenge The previous administration was not doing this, and it is my objective to get this updated on the website and have the agreements and contracts in place by the first of the year. The next goal and objective is to develop and coordinate with council meeting rules and procedures. It is my hope to have a document in front of you the latter part of this year that will not only outline Robert's Rules of Order, but also internal meeting rules so that the council, mayor and council can have a clear understanding of the rules and everyone will agree to them in terms of the efficient operation of the meetings. And lastly, we hope to implement a phased-in approach to achieving compliance with the records management and retention requirements. You heard a presentation 2 weeks ago from my office in terms of the initial steps of this process. This will be a multi-phase process, and it's going to take a lot of work, but we believe that in FY22, we'll be able to achieve this plan and have the city in compliance with the state retention schedule. Next, our FY21 significant accomplishments. As I mentioned earlier, we're an office of 4, currently 3, and I was able to bring on a deputy city clerk early this year, and that has tremendously assisted us in spreading out the workload of this office. We are in the process of hiring a records administrator who will allow the deputy city clerk to free up some of the things he's currently doing. And so that's a major accomplishment for the proper delegation of work in this office. Next, we completed an update of Municode, which is our code of ordinances. The major task here, and we were glad to get it done, was the city charter changes that went into effect in June 2020. That change had not been acted upon, and we were able to, after the first of the year, get the code completely updated, including the current elected officials, and get that the charter changes implemented. Next was we established a public comment process to allow citizens to provide live public comment at city council meetings. As many of you know, with the COVID pandemic, it was a challenge to transition to virtual meetings. We were able to successfully do that. We also were able to think outside of the box and look at best practices in terms of other cities and how they manage their meetings. And early this year, we have a process in place which I think is clear and allows the citizens to not only provide written comment, but also live comment. I would like to thank communications for assisting in this regard, as well as information technology. We did a public information campaign, as well as developed a video to inform the public on how best to make comment at council meetings. Next is an item that I hope to check off the box, hopefully within the next couple months, is the development of an ethics board ordinance. This goes in line with the second bullet point in that the ethics board was changed with the charter change in June 2020. And it was my earnest effort to try to work with the city attorney's office to get a new ethics board ordinance before the council for their consideration and hopefully approval. I think it is very important that the city sticks with its previous commitment of being a city of ethics and have a functioning ethics board in the city. And lastly, as many of you know, this is qualifying week, and we are in the process of the 2021 municipal elections, with elections scheduled to occur on November 2nd, 2021. Up until this point, we've been able to work with Fulton County and get the proper intergovernmental agreement in place, as well as the other ancillary items that we needed to do to put on a proper election in November. qualifying ends Friday, and we look forward to a robust and fair and honest campaign. Looking at our proposed budget, as you will see, there was a significant decrease, and that is primarily due to the absence of municipal elections funding. Next year, there will not be a city election. However, we will look to supplement the budget in 2 years for the next municipal election. Also, there were some changes in the hospitality accounts as well. Lastly, in terms of the head count, as I mentioned previously, we are a department of 4, and we have a lot of work to do, and we look forward to serving the city. With that, that completes my presentation. I look forward to receiving any questions from council.
Thank you so much, colleagues. I see Ms. Willis's hand is up. Ms. Willis, go right ahead.
I just want to tell Mr. Adams that he has been doing an amazing job. And he is very professional. And I really appreciate that, because dealing with 8 personalities, I know, is not easy, different personalities. I know I've been working with you all closely on a record retention legislation, and it's going to require a new system. And I didn't see that. Did you put that anywhere, or you just kind of mentioned it?
Yes, I just mentioned it. It's actually, I guess the best way to look at that is we're still having discussions with the city manager's office in terms of the funding mechanism for that item. But that's we were hoping that would happen in FY21 or early 22.
Okay. And you have enough staff?
Well, I think we can always use additional support. We definitely are prepared to move forward and get the job done with the staff that we have been budgeted for. But I will tell you that bringing on and taking on this record management process, currently our records administrator is going to be tasked with leading that effort. I don't know if that's a job for one person, but we're prepared to get the work done with the bodies that we are allotted.
So I would suggest that, we're in budget season, so we need to budget for what we need. If you think that record management system is not going to get here until mid-year, I would suggest maybe you request for a mid-year additional staff person.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem Willis, in all candor, we did submit for another position, but we understand that the budget is tight, and the city administration and finance didn't fund it at this juncture. But we will more than be happy to come back at mid-year and see if there's a reevaluation of our requests.
Okay, Mrs. Sally Jones, is that what we're doing? Are we going to reevaluate his request in mid-year?
Absolutely. We had several requests for new personnel, and we tried to do our very best to meet expectations and requests in regards to those positions. Of course, we can't, realistically fund everything, but Mr. Adams, as he mentioned, does have a position that he's going to be filling. And so after he fills that position and we have a chance to look at the workload for that individual, then we can certainly go back and reevaluate and determine if we need to go back to the position that he had requested for fiscal year 22.
Okay, because this
was not requested to be filled at this time.
Okay, because this was one of the things that we were dinged on the audit consistently about. And so I know that a new system is going to require testing and implementation, and that's going to require focus. So I just want to make sure that we give him what he needs so that we can make sure that we come into compliance as a city Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Willis. Mr. Khalid. Khalid.
Thank you. I touched on this, Mr. Adams, a bit with our communications department, but I do want to make sure that we're budgeting for fiscal year 2022 to do political education, not just on our 2021 municipal elections in November, but again that you talked about bills that changed the way we do business in the city. Senate Bill 202 changed our election system and our runoff elections in ways that people are still trying to figure out. And so, if one of the things that is happening now is that the state is there are people in the state that are seeking to dissolve or take over the Fulton County Elections Board. So with all of these changes that could be possibly coming, I just want to make sure that we have some funding and capacity in place to educate our constituents about any changes that might be coming up in the next. And then lastly, you talked about this new ethics ordinance and ethics board. I just want to be clear for the record, is our current ethics board dissolved? Because we made no motions or resolutions that I can remember to dissolve that ethics board. So at this time, do we just have no ethics board, or is that ethics board in place until we replace it with this new resolution?
Yes, I'm going to defer to the city attorney to address that in part, but I will tell you this. The current ethics board is still in place. However, it is not compliant with the city charter, which is the current law for the city. And it is our position that we would not like to present any ethics cases to that former board for the case that any decision that they make may not be valid under the current city charter.
Okay. Thank you.
Did you want a comment from legal, Mr. Clerk?
Yeah, Mr. Hyman, I don't know if you wanted to add anything further to that comment.
None other than a change is needed to be in compliance. That's just really all I would say at this time, because the actual change to the recommended proposed changes are in the draft orders have been circulating.
Okay. You got that, Mr.
And if I may, Councilmember Khalid, to your point regarding political activity in terms of education for political awareness, I'm definitely open to that. That is that's an idea that I've been thinking about and will broach with the communications department. But we maintain communication with the Fulton County Department of Registration and Elections, and any new information that comes down through their office, they share that with us as well, and I try to share that with the council and staff.
Okay.
All right. Lastly, I just want to ask or just comment that in the last draft that I've seen, and I may not be up to date on all the drafts, it wasn't clear who appointed people to the pool, or I think that there was just still some confusion about the pool of folks that were that could be pulled from for these like random selections of the ethics board in this new configuration.
Yes, and actually that legislation will be on your agenda for first read next Tuesday at the regular meeting. But in short, the current proposal calls for each council member to appoint one person, and the chief judge of the municipal court to appoint one person to constitute the minimum 9-member board of ethics. And from that 9-member board of ethics, the new policy dictates that a random selection of 3 of those 9 will be selected to hear any prospective ethics case.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mr. Khalid, your name just popped up again. Was that a mistake?
Yeah, I didn't do it.
Okay. Ms. Willis?
Yes, Mr. Adams, isn't it true that the ethics calls for in the charter, calls for every appointee to be a attorney?
Yes, ma'am, that is correct.
Okay, because currently on our ethics board that we have in formation, everyone isn't a bar attorney. So I could see, why we would not be in compliant. And if anything, anyone does file an ethics complaint against anyone, it would not be valid if anything were to, come of the case. Thank you.
Anyone else? I don't see anybody. Mr. Clerk?
Oh, yes, sir.
You have your hand up?
Yeah.
Go ahead. And
Quick question. Since this ordinance will be for the first read at our next meeting, should we be submitting attorney to the clerk's office, a nominee?
Yes, I didn't want to be presumptuous in terms of what the outcome of the vote will be with the council. So since it is first read, we wanted everyone to take a look at it, and if everyone is satisfactory with it and it proceeds to second read, then we will begin the process to fill that. But I think it would be premature for us to solicit anything with the assumption that it's going to be approved automatically.
I was just suggesting there might be more even comfort with it if they've had their names, but I understand your stance.
okay, Ms. Rao? Well, let me just say this about you and your department. There's only one word I think my colleagues would agree with me, and that's outstanding. You've done a great job. No matter how many people you've had under your employee, you've been able to use what you've had to get the job done. So thank you very much for the outstanding work that you do. All right.
Thank you.
Any other next department, please?
The next department is the legal department, Attorney Vincent Hyman.
Mr. Hyman.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council, City Manager. It's a pleasure to be with you today. For those that don't know or haven't met me, I'm Vincent Hyman, the new city attorney for the city of South Fulton. And before I get into the particular mission statements or goals and objectives, I've been here approximately 6 months. And what my first 6 months, to me, what I try to incorporate is that communication and integration is what I've always looked for, no matter where I am or what I'm doing. And then also a degree of adaptability and flexibility. Those concepts are what led me to my goals and objectives, because as it relates to communication and integration, that applies to software as well as human interface. And when I got here, I tried to make it a point to find out who the department heads were, the council members, their staff, and just various people, even amongst the midst of the pandemic. I like to come into the office just because I'm more productive for one. So those concepts are what kind of were the driving parameters behind me coming up, or actually our staff coming up with the goals and objectives. Our mission statement is to leverage technology while providing efficient and professional legal services and reducing liability and risk to the city. From my brief time here, and in any legal office, whether it's private or governmental, is that the law department is a key interface with anything or any operation that the mayor, council, or department will do, whether it's contractual, whether or not it's policy or ordinance. All that has the potential to have legal ramifications. And so I've enjoyed building relationships and having conversations with mayor, council, their staff, and department heads and city manager, because I think that for a young city that we're definitely heading in the right direction. And in that vein, one of my goals or objectives is to enhance legal training, advice to the mayor, council, and department heads, continue to maintain an open and collaborative communication between the city manager, department heads, and the city attorney's office, to try and continue to work on a collaborative partnership between purchasing, between our department and the legal review and the contract process and execution, to continue to manage and oversee outside counsel bills and fees, and implement software. The software component is what allows, or what would allow this department of 5 to kind of chart the needs and growth of this department in conjunction with the city's growth. We now have 4 out of the 5 staffing positions. So with those 4 out of 5, 2 of the attorneys, I believe in professional development. I don't basically hide the ball or keep anything in terms of legal strategies or philosophies or things from them. I want them to grow as I grow. And so they're also cross-trained, although they come into the office with a primary skill set or areas of law. I like them each one to know what the other one can do as well as what I do, so that in the event that I happen to be out of the office for whatever reason, that somebody can feel that they can confidently ask them a legal question or regarding a legal matter. And continue to work on establishing a process for tracking and responding, handling legal requests and documents. Legal requests come in various forms. It could be meeting someone in the hall, to a phone call or email. And so just having a good process for tracking that. Now we're switching to what our office has been able to accomplish within the 6-month time period. We've gotten an online e-filing system with the court, which is Odyssey, that allows us to do our litigation filings and other court filings, whether it be excess funds, interpleaders, those type of activities. We also have our e-filing system set up with the clerk's office that allows us to do the lien filings, cancellation, property search, and those things related to code enforcement. Also, I hired Mr. Samuel James back in April. He's my paralegal. I also hired an attorney, Miss Catherine Burnett. She came on board in May, and she primarily handles transactional matters as well as legislative and matters. And then Mr. Reggie McClendon, he was the last hire. He came on board in July last month, and he deals with zoning, land use matters, annexation, and even some election matters, as well as legislative drafting, reviewing. Also, I think, which I think is no secret, that we drafted ordinance as relates to us being able to virtually meet, continue to virtually meet our emergency mask and regular mask ordinances. Next slide, please. Also, another accomplishment is that we work hand in hand with the mayor, council, city manager in trying to bring Fulton Industrial on board, which the city and all those players were successful in doing so. Anyone that's met me or know me, I'm kind of a people person. So I like to continue to work on just open dialogue, communication with department heads, because one of the best things is that I'd rather have anyone, what's a counselor, member, department head, or whomever, talk to me before a problem arises versus trying to solve the problem after it arises. So that open dialogue communication helps us identify legal issues early on. Then lastly, the council, if it approves with the upcoming meeting, we will use the city's eminent domain powers for the first time to obtain 2 parcels for our Danford sidewalk project. Next slide. Next slide. Yeah. As you can see here, the personnel went from 368,942 to an increase, which represents the 4 out of 5 personnel, including the salaries and benefits. And purchase contract services has gone down, and total budget actually has gone down. Next slide. And as you can see, we had budgeted for 5 positions. Currently, we have 4, and we're looking to add the 5th, which will be the administrative assistant for the FY22 budget. That concludes my presentation, and I'm open for questions. Thank you.
I'm in the queue.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hyman. I do see you, Ms. Gilliard. Go right ahead.
Mr. Hyman, how are you?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for your presentation. I believe when we heard from finance, and it couldn't have been this morning because I was not able to attend that meeting. It probably was another meeting when I was talking about funding, contingency money, and money for litigation. And I was told that there would be litigation money in the legal department's budget for 2022, but I don't see that there. So can you speak to that? I mean, I don't see anything for litigation. So if there is any litigation that you're going to have, how is it going to be funded?
There is litigation funding, and that was in what they consider to be the outside contracting services line of my budget.
Okay. As long as it's there, I see it there.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
You're
welcome. Mr. Khalid.
You know what? I'm good.
Okay. I see that Ms. Willis has her hand raised again.
Just one quick question. Mr. Hyman, are you going to hire anybody that is a subject matter expert in parliamentary procedures or Robert Rules of Order, since we have you, well, when I say you, the attorney office acting as the parliamentarian for meetings?
Actually, I will be going to official training here shortly. I had a chance to speak with, I forget the lady's name, and that they are actually offer some parliamentary training, enforce the bits of parliamentary knowledge that I have. But I actually plan on going to some course for that to go ahead and beef that up.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Hyman?
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much for your presentation. We look forward to great things out of the legal department, as you are a true asset to us. Okay, next item.
Thank you, sir.
The next presentation will be by Public Works, Mr. Antonio Valenzuela, Director.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. My name is Antonio Valenzuela, and it's my pleasure to present to you all the 2022 budget. In sum, what Public Works is responsible for, we are responsible for transportation planning and engineering, TS Plus, LMIG, URA, construction and operations, traffic operations, solid waste, street lighting, facilities, and fleet. Our current inventory for Public Works is over 600 miles of paved roads, about 20 miles of unpaved roads, over 60 bridges and culverts, some detention ponds, over 50 signalized intersections, 24 school zone flashing lights, 18 flashing caution lights, 2 hawk signals, fleet maintenance for over now getting closer to 300 vehicles, the small Merck Miles transfer station, over 38 facilities within those, fire stations, parks, police precincts, art centers, and so on. And currently over getting to the 11,500 streetlights. With that said, I would like to talk to you our 2022 goals and objectives and the maintenance and improvements. We want to make sure that the city is been taking care of at a 4 weeks rotation, the maintenance of 202 miles. We'll also working to ensure that we're still providing 2 MC days for the citizens of the city of South Fulton in the spring and the fall. Complete and adopt the street light master program that will allow the city to have a priority of street lights, to standardize our street lights and ensure that we have an updated ordinance on the street lights. The solid waste ordinance, the review and update, that hoping to provide the best services for our residents. To implement an asset management system software, which it is underway, and we're hoping that to get fully functional in the 2022. And lastly, for maintenance is to continue about 60 miles of the new Fulton Industrial Boulevard district that we just acquired for the city of South Fulton, where now we are over 110,000 residents in total. With regards to transportation, CIP capital improvement projects, we have committed to complete the construction of Button Road at Sun Hotel roundabout. The construction of 2 bridges, Cochrane Road over Deep Creek and the Mooney Road over Deep Creek. Complete bridge repairs, Stack Road over and the CSX, Stack Road over the CSX Railroad and the Mooney Road over Deep Creek Bridge, as well as ensure the completion of 12 guardrail locations. Next page, please. With regards to funding for our city, we're working very diligently to get back to the city about $1.3 million on the LMIC funds. We're going to continue pursuing for the Old National Highway additional $1 million that we're in need for the project. With regards to TIS Plus, we have a list of projects that are getting ready for construction, and an average of about $16.7 million projections for 2022. And begin the implementation if TIS Plus 2 passes. We want to be ready so we can commence at this time with design and resurfacing projects for TIS Plus 2. This is considering that it will be approved on the referendum of November of this year. Our significant accomplishments in FY21, as mentioned before, we can start with the maintenance and improvement projects. We continue providing the 202 miles right-of-way maintenance every 4 weeks. We have done the MC days in the spring, and we're looking forward to doing that on the fall. The Adopted Road program was implemented. We have 4 civic organizations now, and we're working with them. The kickoff of the Master Streetlight program, it's underway. The recommendation for TIS Plus 2 on tiers 1 and 2, which was projected at $90.3 million. The street lighting installation program, and so on. With regards to construction projects, we have completed the Cascade Road over branch of Utah Creek. We're going to complete the resurfacing of 2020 and 2021 resurfacing projects at about 64 miles. We led the construction of the intersection of Button Road at Stone Hotel. We have led 13 projects which are currently under PE, about $1.6 million. 9 projects are with right to acquisition, about $1.9 million as well, and the construction authorization of $22 million that we're looking forward to get it done this year, and the bridge maintenance of about $450,000. With regards to funding, this year we have secured $1.25 million for the Old National Highway, $626,000 for New Hope. For Button and Stone Hotel project was led, $1.8 million. Cochrane Road over Kemp Creek, $1.85 million. The LMIC funds, $1.3 million. Finally, $500,000 for 12 guardrails that is currently under replacement with the city within the city. With regards to the 2022 budget for transportation, Our proposed personnel is $973,000, which encompasses contract services and supplies. Our total operating cost comes up to $9.9 million, and our overall total budget close to $11 million. With regards to the current staff, we have 5 full-time employees, and we're looking to increase to 15, and that will be an addition of 11 full-time employees. And the reason of that is, as you know, we don't have anything for Fulton industrial area. So the vast majority of current support is to do in-house that section of the city of South Fulton, as well as to start beginning a hybrid approach for public works, looking at the future. General services, the goals and objectives. As we maintain over 30 facilities, we continue procuring supplies, equipment, and services in a cost-effective and a timely manner. We complete the GFA plan for phase 2 for a solar resilient program at Fire Station 6. We collect the inventory of PPE, as well as we complete a major approval of URA for those 13 locations that were approved by council. So it is our goal now to ensure that all those facilities are going into construction very soon. With fleet, we'll continue maintaining about 120 vehicles, and that we're still going to be doing the purchase and distribution of fuel while adhering to EPD regulations. We'll continue providing the services, which consists of vehicle specifications, vehicle purchase, registration, and surplus of vehicles with all departments. The accomplishments on 2021, the maintenance of the facilities have enhanced from last year. We are now at 38 facilities. We continue doing in the daily operations. We believe that by going through an asset management system and a work order system, we're going to be enhancing that maintenance of our facilities. We have hired a much better expert on maintenance, so we feel that we're going to be enhancing better what we do. We have completed the CARES funding project for touchless systems, a lot of flow fixture upgrades. We completed the CARES funding project for sanitizing protective barriers for public safety personnel to all our fire stations. With regards to the URA, we have completed the outdoor fitness equipment, the pads, as you can see on the right side, the pads for the equipment. We have replaced some HVAC systems, the restoration of the tennis court, and some site repairs, like sidewalk repairs at different parks that were in need. As well as we were able to get to a point of approval of 10 major URA projects for the city. With fleet, we have not neglected anything for maintaining over 120 vehicles. We continue providing all the support and staying within EPD regulations. Our budget for general services. Our personnel is at 652. We're requesting one additional personnel so we can be more effective on how to manage our facilities. Our purchase contract services at 714,000, supplies 385, a total operating of $1,099,000. You can see a difference between 2021 and 2022, and a total budget of 1.75. Our personnel, 7 full-time employees within fleet and general services. And what we're looking for now for 2022 is the additional of for transportation facility manager, for CIP facility manager. Public works. The proposed budget for 2022, it is a purchase of contracted services at $1.4 million. That is, I'm sorry, this section of the budget is only for facilities, which is related to rentals and others just related to facilities at a cost of $1.4 million and a total budget of $1.416. With that, I'll be glad to answer any questions that you may have.
I have a question. Am I hand raised?
Mr. Mayor?
Let me say, I see Mr. Cleve was in the queue, and Mr. Reeves, you got your hand raised. That's all I say at this time. So and Ms. Gums have just joined us. So Mr. Khalid, go right ahead.
I'm going to drop out and come back and let those two go first. I'm still formulating my questions. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you, Councilmember Khalid. I want to have a very specific question here as it relates to the Stacks Road Bridge. Is that was slated for repair to begin underway? It was at execution, and so it's slated to the repair was slated to happen sometime this month, correct?
Yes, Mr. Reeves, that is the case. Now, I have explained the reason of the delay on the repairs of that bridge, but if you need additional explanation, I will be glad to provide that as well.
No. You did a very great job at explaining. So, which leads me back to this is so, but based on that, can this process be expedited so that we can get construction of the repair of that bridge within the next month or 2 months?
We have submitted all the paperwork needed for this project to our purchasing department. It is my understanding that it should be approved anytime and should be back on the street anytime as well. With that said, our purchasing department should advertise for 30 days or 20 available days. And hopefully then after that, I've been able to present a recommendation for award to the council and get back to construction as soon as possible.
So it will be based on the timeline, council's approval should be at the September meeting.
It is feasible. We'll have to push and discuss that to ensure that the dates might not meet with the date set for council meetings, but I will be talking to our city manager and Mr. To ensure that we're able to fit in at the next available council meeting after receiving all the bids and bid tabulations are being done and ensuring that we check every single item that is submitted to us.
Correct. Make sure all the boxes are checked. And so, Madam City Manager, I will just say that could we put this on the watch list, and so that we can ensure that the construction of the repair of the Stacks Road Bridge can take place and be completed this year? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Reeves. I have Councilwoman Gum, then Mayor Pro Tem Willis, then Councilwoman Gilliard, and then Councilwoman Robb. Ms. Willis, go ahead.
Mr. Valenzuela, thank you for your presentation. I have just a few quick questions. Have we budgeted for increased litter pickups? I know we're currently on a 4-week cycle, but some areas need a little bit more frequent attention. Have we thought about, I guess, putting some more budget towards that or increasing in that particular area for litter pickup? And even in the right-of-ways as well?
Yes, ma'am. We heard loud and clear to our council and residents that the 4 weeks rotation and the litter pickup is not enough for the city. So taking that into consideration, we have taken a second approach and hopefully been able to do at least in a 3-week rotation and have a better dedicated staff for little pickup.
Okay, so 3-week rotation, you want to move that to, is there possible like maybe 2 weeks for the major corridors?
The intention is to begin with, is stay with what we have, increase on the state routes that we haven't done it. The state does every 45 days. We plan on doing it in between those, so that will bring us possible every 3 weeks and so on. So we're trying currently a hybrid approach at this point. And we started that process early this month. So we're gonna go through September, and hopefully things will change, as you might see it on some areas of your districts. And then after that, we're gonna have to rebid some projects and see how we can handle and squeeze better the rotations.
Now with the hybrid, who will that be? Additional staff that you would need, or how will we do the hybrid approach?
It will be, we still will need some overseeing for in-house public works staff, and then we'll have subcontractors that have already personnel, equipment, and others to provide those services. So what we're looking at is that we don't want to contract with people that are not providing the services. We want to enter into contract with companies that we see in fully responsible to us. We just don't want to have it, companies that do here and there, and they don't commit to schedules and so on. So it will be a mix of in-house and contractors.
Okay. As far as the cameras, and I don't know whose wheelhouse this is in, but I thought it would be appropriate for us, especially if we're addressing the illegal dumping. What are we doing about cameras? Are they also budgeted into your plan for this fiscal year to deal with those additional hot spots?
I'm glad that you asked the question, and then I believe with a good initiative from our leadership and the formation of the code enforcement division, so all the cameras will follow under them. We will work with them to provide all the necessary support. And then I believe that code enforcement should work with PD because and IT to ensure that it's proper monitoring of the cameras and proper enforcing of those issues that we have on illegal dumping.
So that wouldn't necessarily come out your budget, but we are expanding the camera program. Is that what you're saying?
It is. I don't have the details, but it is with code enforcement. Now, the budget is not with Public Works.
Okay. Is Mr. Assistant City Manager Don Toms on? I just want to get a little bit more information on the cameras. City Manager Jones.
I think Don is still on, but if he's not available right now, I'll be glad to try to answer it. I know that there was money in the current fiscal year budget, is my understanding, that was under then CDRA for cameras, and that has always been a responsibility that was placed under that department. But I mean, we have a proposed budget for supplies for CDRA, and we can look at including the purchase of cameras for that purpose.
Yeah, I definitely think that we need to expand the program because, again, we still have considerable illegal dumping, and we're not able to, I guess, connect the dumping or find anyone for that behavior. So if we need to expand the program to get more, because the only way this is going to curb is if we start instituting some consequences. So I think if we really definitely focus on trying to expand that camera program and then start, providing these citations, I think that would be helpful. So I just hope somebody really focuses on that. And my last question, in regards to sanitation, how much of this, in regards to sanitation, is being proposed for personnel? And I guess that's Valenzuela.
Yes, ma'am. We are looking to hire one personnel that will help us to monitor with solid waste.
Is that a liaison or coordinator, or?
It will be a solid waste coordinator.
Okay. And that would be a body that you will be managing, not a contract or anything.
Yes, ma'am. That will be under Public Works.
Okay. I think that concludes my questions. Thank you.
Ms. Gumbs, Ms. Willis, you're on.
All right, thank you. Mr. Vansuelis, did I understand you correctly when you said that we're trying to transition and stand up our own public works department?
At this point, we're not transitioning Public Works, but we're going to be doing a hybrid approach, and we're going to start with Fulton industrial area that we're fully responsible now for maintaining. Out of that, we'll start expanding and see how we can do in the near future.
Okay, I just want to make sure we have the resources and we have the equipment, you know, because residents, did you budget for us to do street sweeping? Because right now, how often are our streets being swept?
It's a good point that you make, Ms. Willis. The budget to do street sweeping, it was there. It is there under our operations and maintenance being managed by Jacobs, but unfortunately, it only allows to do one rotation every quarter. So that doesn't really help the system. So instead of doing that, we think that if we don't acquire and street sweeping, that we should be doing at least on a weekly basis. We prefer to do more litter pickup, more maintenance on the right way, that the roads will benefit much better on going on that route.
Right. So if we're going to be managing our own public works division, and we don't even have for Fulton Industrial, and we don't even have a street sweeper, I mean, how effective are we going to be? And, you know, so you saying we're not doing any street sweeping in our city?
Right now, we were doing at 198 miles, but the budget only allow to do once a quarter. So, but when you sweep once a quarter, you don't see the difference. You don't see the benefit. So the benefit will stay if we acquire eventually our own sweeping, which the roads will be swept at a rotation at least once a week, or twice a week, or at least sweep the main corridors where we have sidewalks, gutter, and curb and gutter. That will make a difference. So for FIB, it's still the areas on FIB, the inside roads do not have curb and gutter, or a lack of sidewalks as well. So by hiring a crew that will start dedicated to that area, will ensure that those roads are maintained as they were swept.
Okay, Ms. Sally Jones, we need to figure out a way how to get street sweeping back into the budget for this entire city. I mean, we're a major city, and it just, I can't imagine. I mean, we got to have street sweeping.
Well, we have proposed in the CIP to purchase a street sweeper. I mean, Mr. Adams, can you zoom in a little bit more? I'm not sure if it was one of our purchases because of the magnitude of it. I can't see the budget. If he can zoom it in. See, the street sweeper is under Public Works. Can you zoom in that section of the CIP?
Yeah, I'm trying to get it.
It is listed under 2023.
Right, we did include it, but I think it was it $250,000? And that's why we were pushing it out for 1 year but it is in the CIP to purchase our own, so we can have the availability to do it anytime it needs to be done.
Right. So, but that's in 2023. So in 2022, we're supposed to just, live with one street sweeping a quarter.
So the problem that we have is currently we don't have a location where we can safely store the street sweeping. We also have to look at who's going to be maintaining, who's going to be operating, and so on. At this point, we're not equipped yet to go on that route, but by doing a transition little by little, looking at 2023, I think we'll be in a better position.
Okay, I'm gonna move on from this. Again, this is a major city, and I can't fathom the thought of us not being able to sweep our streets. That's just crazy to me. And we're talking about, making our city look more inviting, look clean. I can't fathom that thought. So I would ask Ms. Sally Jones that we go back and we revisit that. The other thing I have a question about is the CIP grants. Are you all going to do more CIP grants for more sidewalks? Because Danforth and Old National are not the only places that need sidewalks. We need sidewalks we need sidewalks on Old Fairburn. We need sidewalks finished on Scarborough. We need sidewalks on Welcome All. So what's the plan to make sure that we get more sidewalks in our city?
So our recommendation is, if we do sidewalks, we got to have a capital budget so we can begin with design, looking at rights of acquisition, utility relocations, and construction. A mile of sidewalks, it's almost at $2 million these days. So while if we engage any opportunities with ARC and looking at federal funds, it's just honestly, it takes forever to accomplish a project with federal funds because of the regulations and the constraints that we have. So it will be much better to do with local funds. And one option is to see if T+2 gets approved, where we can utilize some of the money for areas where we are in very need of sidewalks. That's one option, as well as anything that is related to a small program which is called TAP or LCI. But the problem with those two types of funding is that they have to be within a restricted area. We just can't apply for areas that the city doesn't have LCIs.
Okay. And what about it wasn't an LCI study, it was a CDAP study. Are you looking at ways we can fund the CDAP study as well for Washington Road that was completed by ARC?
We will look at that with ARC, and any opportunity that we have, we will pursue. But again, just to give you examples on the amount of time that it takes to build with federal funds, it is much larger. But let's hope that T+2 is approved, and we have increased a bit of the money for unforeseen conditions and so on, where we can perhaps utilize some of those funding and then request additional funding for shovel-ready projects for 2023.
What I would suggest is that you work with our communications department and budget for a mailer to go out, educating our residents on the pros and cons of that T-Splosh that is going to be on the
November.
Yes.
Yes.
Lastly, did you ever? You were supposed to talk with GDOT and use and leverage support for their state contractors to help get a reasonable cost to maintain our right of ways. So they do it every time they cut the grass. But when Mr. Donald was here, what Kathy recommended is that we work with them we use their contractors they're using in order for us to augment the grass cutting in the right-of-way cleaning. And we set aside money last year's budget, but I didn't see where that happened.
So what we've done, Councilwoman Willis, is that the current contractors that work for the entire state of Georgia, to my knowledge, through our inspections, are not at the caliber that we're looking at the city of South Fulton. They only cut the grass and go. So we're coming back behind them, and those are in the state routes. However, this year we've done already for 16 miles, and we started doing this early August on some state routes. If this vendor is successful and you see a change on our roads and the grass, even though we have so much water, then there's some funds aside now that we can enhance, and I promise you that it should be much better going forward.
Okay, so the CID has some landscapers, and the CID, of course, because I see them out on the right of way Roosevelt, but they stop like right at the end of College Park. And so, can you check with the Aerotropolis to see who they are using to maintain their right of way? Because Roosevelt Highway and oftentimes Camp Creek and on National and even Fulton Industrial, those are our main gateways into our city. And so majority of the time, they don't look inviting. And I just would like to see that change and for us to do whatever it takes to get that rectified. We need streets cleaned within our city too, of course, because you don't want to clean the outskirts and leave your inskirts looking dirty. But what I don't want to do is to end up looking like some of my neighboring cities with trash everywhere you turn and look. And we really do need to focus on our right of ways.
Time has expired,
Yes,
Mr. Valenzuela. I'll allow you to answer it as quickly as possible.
Yes, ma'am. Just to let you know that I've been working with all the CIDs. I'm looking to expand on FIB, looking to expand on Roosevelt Highway. I'm looking at their contractors. I don't want to list no names, but we've been working with those very diligently, and I'm looking for the best prices and the best services that they can provide to the city of South Fulton.
Thank you, Mr. Valenzuela. Ms. Gilliard?
Thank you, Mr. Valenzuela. There seems to be some confusion as it relates to citizens and their understanding of solid waste. I do not believe that there's anything that we have circulated publicly to talk about what direction we're going in, why we're going in that direction, how it will affect citizens, the cost of it, and so forth. So I heard you mention it briefly a few minutes ago. Can you speak to that a little bit?
With regards to solid waste, currently we have a free market throughout the city of South Fulton. About within residential and commercial providers, we have over 10 of those providers currently providing solid waste services. Mm-hmm. Citizens still can pick up at their own leisure whatever vendor they have. To say if that system is working, yes or no, we have done different approaches. Some do, some they don't. So we're working internally to see if we can have a better program for the city, a better system for the city. And upon having a draft that can be taken into consideration, it will be shared with mayor and council, and then we can go into further discussions. Then the mini transfer station, it is a mini transfer station that we inherited from Fulton County, which is the Merck Miles transfer station. Okay. Right there, we receive the services every time that they charge a minimal fee for the services, but the bulk of the money at the transfer station is the hauling of staff from that mini transfer station to a landfill.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. I have one more, and it relates to the lighting master plan, street light master plan. When did it begin? And when do you anticipate completion?
The master street lighting plan started in January of this year. It is forecasted that we'll have a completed plan by December of this year. We're coming out with public meetings. We have held steering committee meetings with our stakeholders. Then we're going to a public meeting. Then we're going to go into council presentation and then go from there.
Okay, so how are you going to include in the plan streets that are state streets? Are they sitting at the table and having a discussion about how they're going to provide lighting for the state streets in our city?
So the position of the state is this: they own the rights of way, and then if we want streetlights on the state routes, we have to look for encroachment permits and so on. But we're looking at all the roads that we have, and it is going to be the public and the stakeholders' desire to present the best plan for the city.
Okay, and my last question: prior to beginning the streetlight master plan, how was the decision made in terms of where new streetlights were going to go?
We have not made any decisions. We have taken an inventory. A consultant has taken the inventory on Greystone, on Georgia Power, and everything that they found, about 11,500 streetlights. So the final decision is going to be upon the needs, recommendations, stakeholder, and the public, and we present it back to you.
Someone is not muted. Someone's not muted. Would everybody mute their phones, please? Go ahead, Mr. Valenzuela.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, that was my response with on street lighting.
Yeah, the reason why I asked that question is because I know that from West Dubs to Highway 92, Butner Road has major streetlights that are new within the past 9 months or so, even probably before then. And I was just wondering how that occurred.
Yes, ma'am.
Some of the lights that you might see better illumination is that Georgia Power completed the change of luminaries from current luminaries to LEDs. So you can see sometimes, why is this brighter than before? And it's just that we're the transforming of or upgrading of luminaries. And we have installed at some existing poles throughout the city. Not necessarily, we haven't done in a particular corridor that we have put 100 lights or so on. We've been doing maybe 5 street lights here, 10 street lights here, and so on, but nothing massive through any corridor within the city.
So, but still, my point is that it wasn't the illumination of the lights on Butner Road. It was new posts where there never were any. So that was what I was referring to. But thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Ms. Gilliard. Councilwoman Rao, you're next. Dr. Rao.
Thank you so much. Mr. Valenzuela, I have a couple questions and comments. The first being that we have aggressive goals for fiscal year 22 in terms of transition in the department. But I want to say, or at least go on record and say, my number one priority is to see that we transition or change our service collection model for trash collection. I definitely, whatever you do with that plan, I would like to see that when you're covering an area, there's a provider there only one day of the week. If it's Tuesday and you're going through a district or however you identify these zones, that we won't see trucks every day. So I wanted to say that. Second, we know that the city will get an allocation of federal money for infrastructure investments. And one of the things that I hope we look at, because you have indicated how complicated it is managing these federal funds, to begin to think about that now, particularly around those nodes where we're expecting increased density, to begin to think about that, figure out what if it's road widening or sidewalks or whatever to support that growth, that we begin to think about that money to support that. I guess just because things are going the way they are, I'm just seeing the effect of that, particularly in Sandtown, because the growth is coming fast. And I'm assuming that's going to happen to those other areas when they get that first project. And it's so much harder to catch up. Whereas if we just begin to think about it now and tying into that transportation plan we've done to figure out what projects would be teed up first. And finally, as it relates to storm water management, I know this is a new area for us. Can you describe a little bit, you're just talking about implementation, but can you share a little more about what that will entail? Because of course, I don't know, I've had a lot of issues with storm water issues in my area. Can you express that for the benefit of the public? What is that going to look like over the next year?
Yes, ma'am. Let me just say that we're taking well notes of all your great input provided to us. With regards to stormwater, the best definition I can provide is that it is our responsibility to ensure that water that gets into our inlets, when it outflows, it's also clean. That's the best definition, to ensure that those waters are clean. So right now we have different issues. To begin with, we don't have an inventory of our inlets. We have a huge backlog of maintenance and upgrades of our stormwater system. It's a mix of system that we have. It is open system and closed system. We've got to get those done. And then lastly, we have to educate our community on how to deal with water going through our inlets. We got to get away of discharging into our rivers stuff that shouldn't be going into it. Our inlets need to be free of debris, free of advertisement tags and others that we go into it. And our main plan out of this is to have a master plan, a master stormwater plan for the city of South Fulton. What this plan will do is we'll inventory everything and will provide the needs for immediate needs and long-term projects. Right now, our backlog of sinkholes, drainage issues, inlet maintenance, the tap replacements, catch basin replacement, pipe replacements, it's getting close to $3 million. So what we're requesting here is to have a separate stormwater division that can handle those things, and have a stormwater system for us, a master plan that can give us the guidelines on how to stay in compliance with EPD, as well as providing the best services to our residents of the city.
Okay. And just one follow-on question. The cleanups that are done, is that in support of the MS4 program, the city's efforts to clean up, that supports that work?
Yes, ma'am. It is part of MS4. On this program, in order to be in compliance with EPD, they have multiple regulations. We have different things that we have to do throughout the years. And we are to inventory many things. We are to clean many areas. There's a percentage of what we have to clean. There's a percentage that we have to inventory, and also work and educate our community. There's work that should be volunteer work, and so on.
So documenting that, even the initiatives that we as council people do support that work, right?
That's correct, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you. I don't think I have any further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rao. Mr. Khalid, you're on.
Thank you. First, the master plan for lighting. Does it make allowance for rural areas of our city where residents have expressly said they do not want streetlights?
Oh, the master plan is open. It is for, we are neutral. We are providing the experts to discuss with our communities, to discuss with the state, our experts here at the city, and so on. We're taking into consideration all comments and all plans that we receive from our residents.
Perfect. Thank you. Because I do know that there are some people who have farms and they moved far out and they want to see the stars at night. So I just want to make sure that we don't light up their street if they don't want it. This is a question I've gotten from several residents, including BK, who's in the chat right now. How much money is in our budget to maintain the sidewalks after we install them? Because some of them are looking pretty bad.
So this is what we've done, Councilman Khalid. We have $868,000 under our Jacobs contract for operations and maintenance. Unfortunately, those $880,000, it goes very fast because while you do pothole repairs, concrete repairs, dirt road maintenance, disposal fees, paving markings, some part of street sweeping, traffic counts, and others, it is very slim. So we have put additional funding for maintenance.
All right. So can I? I'm sorry. Just could I get that dollar amount? What dollar amount is in the next year's budget for maintaining the sidewalks that we're installing everywhere?
There's not an additional amount and specific amount of money just dedicated for sidewalks. Since our needs are huge, we have increased by let me back it up into my budget and see how much more we put for operations and maintenance. We've put additional close to $500,000 that will be for different needs.
Right. You know, I love a dedicated fund. So I mean, it would be nice if we had that number broken out. I just want to make sure that as we're putting all these sidewalks in everywhere, they're going to be brand new, that in 2 or 3 years they don't look bad because we didn't specifically set aside money to maintain them. Am I clear in hearing you say that there is currently no plan to move to a single service provider or a new sanitation model? There's nothing in the works for FY2022.
What I stated before is that we are assessing all the needs for the city of South Fulton. We're assessing,
but there isn't a plan coming forward for 2022 to move to change the model, is what I'm asking.
We will make a recommendation. We don't know necessarily if it's going to be one single provider or 2 providers or based on different districts. We don't know yet, but we're going to provide.
But you are, so you're saying you are planning in the next few months to make or I guess in the next few weeks to make a plan to change the way we do this for 2022.
Mr. Khalid, the answer is yes.
Okay.
That would be forthcoming.
Is it going to change? Is it not going to change? We can talk about the details later. Did I hear you say that the staff that we're bringing in first for public works is going to be focusing on FIB, and then we're going to expand that out to other areas?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I thought that's what I heard, and this is just more of a comment because I keep hearing that we don't make separate budgets for districts. Yet in every one of these presentations, it seems like there are specific slides for FIB. The next thing that I want to say is that you talked about us not necessarily being satisfied with GDOT's cutting of our right-of-ways, but it is also my understanding that all of the other cities that have incorporated, when they incorporate, cutting those right-of-ways becomes their responsibility, and that GDOT's cutting every 45 days is only a courtesy that they are providing for us. So, do you have anything to say in response to that? Because that is what I've heard from GDOT.
What I mentioned in my presentation is that Georgia DOT, due to Title 32, they do maintain the rights of way, and they do provide the right-of-way maintenance every 45 days.
Okay. I'm just saying that I've heard that that is a courtesy and that it could stop at any time. So I think that we need to be cognizant of that. And we really can't complain about the job they're doing if they don't really have to do it at all.
That's why we're gonna add a few things, supplement of what they do, not necessarily take it over, but we're gonna supplement so we can do, so we can lift the services for the city on those on certain areas.
Okay, and while we were talking about specific streets, I want to take a minute to talk about Old National. I know a lot of people don't maybe want to think about Old National being an entertainment district, but like I drove the length of Old National with a friend recently, and we counted 13 clubs, restaurants, and bars between the College Park side and the Old National side. The South Fulton side. We have like 8 or 9 in our city limits. And I think that those areas need more intense, in the same way that FIB might need more intense service, those areas might need more intense service. I want to age myself, but in the 90s, when I used to like party in places like Buckhead and Midtown, I remember leaving like the IHOP on Peachtree or on Ponce de Leon at 4 a.m. and seeing street sweepers every Saturday and Sunday morning. And maybe that's something that is paid for by like their CIDs or their business associations. I know that that's something that I wanted to do with the DDA I proposed, so maybe it can come out of that budget. I know that that's what New Orleans does, but I do think, and not Councilwoman Gums, not just like areas like Old National, but places like Butner Road or like Welcome Mall, where we know that, especially like in the summertime or in warmer months, we have just heavy traffic for nightlife or for weekends when people are having like biker events or gatherings or things like that. I think that those places deserve to have weekly street sweeping, and we just need to figure out how to ramp up to that. My last 2 questions are about our Jacobs contract. How much are we paying Jacobs next year, and how much did we pay them this year? What's the total amount of that contract?
Well, in 2021, the Jacobs contract was $5,621,463. At that time, we haven't increased anything. We haven't adjusted our contract, and we also provided the $868,400 for operations and maintenance. Just keep in mind that the initial contract with Jacobs, it's for the personnel, for the equipment, the lease of the facility, the paying of outsourcing through subcontractors that are outside the scope of services and so on. It's not just for what they provide. So the scope of services is substantially big. We're working with them to make it better. We're working with them to do a hybrid approach on how can the city do it with other contractors with them, and how we can increase the scope of services and perhaps look at a better contract and so on. On 2022, the contract for Jacobs increases based on the cost of living adjustment of 4%. So the contract net is $5,846,322, and we're still going to provide the same amount for maintenance, operations and maintenance of $868,400.
Right. And so what I would like to see, and maybe if there's someone from Jacobs who could help you answer this question, is, but like, what is not covered by that $5 million that, since we really have no other public workers of our own, what are they doing in other cities that they are not doing for us? What's not covered in that contract? And if we did in specific areas want to see more right-of-way maintenance, more mowing, or more street sweepers, I would love to just see a matrix that would explain how much more that those things would be. Even if we don't have the money in this year's budget, I'm just not clear what it would cost to actually do the things that all of us are asking. And it also, there also seems to be some confusion amongst our constituency about what Jacobs does and doesn't do. I have like 20 emails from a couple of my super citizens where they're asking for Jacobs to come out and do things like more cleanups on Old National or more frequent mowing. And they're like, that's not in our contract.
Mr. Khalid, I'm going to allow him to answer. Your time has expired, but Mr. Valenzuela, please answer.
We have clearly defined the scope of services in the contract with Jacobs. We know exactly what is within their scope and what's out of the scope. Very quickly, state routes is out of the scope of services. We know exactly what they need to do and so on. Our goal is to work with them, have a hybrid approach. We do more here and you do more on this end. We have heard you clearly what the city needs, and they have heard from me what we're looking for. And hopefully we can do better for 2022.
All right. Thank you, sir. Mr. Reeves, you're up.
Yes, sir. Councilman Cleed took me back a minute when he said the Easter party and then hit IHOP and Waffle House and then hit church at 8 o'clock in the morning. So he was about to take me somewhere. But however, I do agree with
the church part.
Well, you know, 8 a.m. service. So it's but I do agree with you about the street sweepers, particularly going down Old National Highway, other areas like Cascade and Butner, that have these after hour spots. So, however, but I will assure to you, sir, a change is coming. And in the presentation that was given to us at the retreat, because Councilmember Willis and I have been working on this for quite some time, and it's a very comprehensive plan. Street sweepers are in there, and it's a very robust and comprehensive plan to address and mitigate all of those issues, and it will be under sanitation. And we would like Jacobs to focus on their core competencies, which is the infrastructure, which leads me to this MS4 program and implementation. Dr. Rao kind of touched on it, but I want Mr. Valenzuela to expand just a little bit when I asked.
He has more trouble.
He has more trouble? Hello?
Go ahead, Mr. Reeves.
Yes, sir. So it's that when we're looking at the plan, what is the plan for MS4 to ensure that we stay in compliance?
For once, right now, the city doesn't have no personnel for stormwater. So we're looking for an engineer that will handle stormwater plus 2 inspectors that will help us out to identify and inventory all our MS4 inventory throughout the city. Currently, we don't have it. It's not on GIS. It's not nowhere. So we got to start from an inventory and go from there. Then the master plan is we're going to put a master plan for stormwater master plan for the city that will do all that stuff. So somebody has to oversee in a huge study that usually takes about 3 years. What other cities closer to the city of South Fulton have done it in the past. And somebody will have to inventory as the master plan starts evolving. Somebody has to be part inventorying what we have.
Okay.
This MS4 was brought to us some time ago, correct?
Yes, we just became by APD recognized as a permittee MS4 for the city of South Fulton.
Right. So at best, because what you said was we have no inventory, any inlets, and we have these drainage issues. So I'll just leave it right there to, because at best we should have some sort of inventory, but you're going to be working with the GIS person to get the locations on this, correct?
Right. So that's why we need boots on the ground to start looking at how we're going to tie in. We need experts that can tell us the best way how to do an stormwater master plan. We have lots of deficiencies. As you can see, even on your areas, you have open ditches, you have some small culverts that fail. All our systems are not closed systems. We got some inlets, drop inlets that are all over. When we go and do those repairs, we found different things. Once you open the ground, then you found inlets being built out of stone, out of bricks, out of compliance, and so on. A small job of being $5,000 becomes $50,000 in one particular location. That's why the current inventory is over $3 million for stormwater. And the primary reason why, we can't do everything that we can. We're doing repairs as much and as quickly as possible, but the overall plan or 5-year capital improvement plan for stormwater needs to be done so we can be responsible with EPD and to our residents before this gets out of hand.
Okay, so we're a little behind now, but we still have the ability to get back on track and be in compliance, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, I look forward to that happening. As you know, of course, I plague you with emails on the drainage issues, but, I guess we need to budget for that study to get done as well. And then on another note, off of that, this is going towards solar power. What are your thoughts about the solar power purchase agreements as a tool for municipalities?
We actually, through GFA, it's one of the first recommendations, and the city will pay just not that much money, and we're going to go with the first solar panel on Fire Station 8, which is a location that has the best roof at this time, and the best location that will provide us through the approvals that we got this year, and now you'll see it very soon, contracts that we're going to be entering with GPA, and then now the construction of those roofs and solar panels. So we want to make sure that we can install those where the conditions permit, and then we don't want to be installing nowhere where our roofs are to be replaced and so on. That will be much more expensive for us. Okay. But as we are going to be moving and replacing and providing new roofs to some of our facilities, if Fire Station 8 is a good example for us, most likely we'll be moving on that direction as well.
All right, because those have benefits towards energy that we can utilize. It. Will these type of agreements be available tools for the future? And you see that happening?
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Valenzuela. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Mr. Valenzuela. A couple of things I'd like, well, just one really. I've been working with the fire department in terms of getting some severe weather management, some emergency management systems going on. I'll be bringing that to you guys in the future. But we've had several cases of severe and inclement weather. What have we implemented until such time these other things get on board? What are you implementing that you've learned from the last situations that'll help us in the future?
Well, we're working now much closer with our fire department they have come up with a new emergency system that Fulton County used to handle in the past for all the cities. And transportation and public works, we have our internal emergency plan of operations, which is it's a mix of within now Jacobs employees, contractors that provide the support, and as well as we bring in our small employees from facilities, and there is a plan for us for public works. Now we're going to merge our plan and provide all the support to fire, so it should be a smooth transition on those cases.
That part I know. That's the part I'm telling you we're working on. But you know, during severe weather, inclement weather, you know, we kind of get the same. All of us get the same complaints about falling trees, not getting out and getting the roads done in time. And my thing is there anything different that until we get all these other systems in line, is there anything different that we can do in the event of an inclement weather situation?
What we've done is perhaps from the last storm, we very quickly got some additional equipment for our current employees, and Jacobs has also been online with ensuring that a couple of days prior any of those events we're already prepared, and as well as contractors being online, so we can react very quickly. But granted, you know, we don't know when that's going to occur, and all cities and everybody is in the same position that we are. So we're in a way we're competing against each other.
Well, I think it's going to be important that we're working pretty good with the emergency management system and also the severe weather alarm to find out what is most reasonable in terms of us alarming our citizens when there bad weather approaching. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Valenzuela. I appreciate it. Mr. Clerk, let's go to the next department.
The next department is Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs. Mr. Landrum.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. My name is Travis Landrum. It is my pleasure to present the budget for the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs Department. I will be presenting the Parks and Recreation operation, and Ms. Lonnie Avini will present the Cultural Affairs operation following. Following my presentation, I'll ask if you have a preference to address questions for each operation individually or collectively at the end. As you can see on this slide is FY2022 goals and objectives. The vision for the Parks and Recreation Department is to provide affordable recreation, physical, and cultural opportunities for all of City of South Fulton residents, with a focus on family, youth development, adults, and building healthy communities. Off script from that, I just want to highlight and emphasize that our overall goal is to provide all citizens with high level of programs, facilities, and services. Our mission is to provide all citizens in the City of South Fulton the highest level of programs, facilities, and services that will positively affect our vision in creating community. The goals and objectives for this year, we're seeking out to complete our master plan that is currently underway with Mr. Perez. We're seeking to increase public awareness and knowledge of the recreational opportunities for our residents. We will definitely look to complete that feat with our communication department and in-house. And overall, we're looking to enrich the lives of residents and build a healthier community. Next slide. Thank you. The programs, we're looking to have training and professional development for all staff on the GRPA and NRPA, that's the state and national standards. We're only as strong as our weakest link, so we want to make sure that our staff are adequately trained to help meet this standard for our programs. This will enhance our opportunities provided to the community. Following our efforts, we'll look to develop and review feedback for our future programs. We currently don't have in place, well, not that we don't have in place, but we're not seeking and utilizing the tools that we have to collect feedback, to get the good, the bad, news about our opportunities so we can correct any errors that we've done in the past to make sure we don't duplicate that and provide successful opportunities in the future. As it relates to our facilities, we're looking to repair and remodel the recreation facilities that we currently have. I'm sorry, give me 1 second. All right, is that, all right, there we go. We're looking to repair our facilities. We have several repairs throughout our operations that are in need. There were some that were discussed earlier, presentations that were covered in the URA. Other operations, we'll look to have that taken care of, hopefully in our budget, supported by Mayor and Council. We're hoping to remodel and repair our outdoor parks, spaces, and pavilions, concessions, and fields. As mentioned earlier, also, we'll look to increase our engagement and awareness of our park and recreation operations, offerings through the city website and other social media tools. We're hoping to utilize fully our civic rec that was already implemented here with the city, and we want to use all of the widgets that comes with that software that we currently have and use it to its potential. See that part of the slide on the bottom has kind of been cut off. If we can go to the next slide, please. The FY21 significant accomplishments, these I can speak to in an overall perspective. These were, of course, taking place prior to my arrival. Obviously, with the COVID pandemic that took place, we were able to successfully continue to service our community through virtual programs. As you can see, there's a listing of the programs that were offered in our facilities. The adult programs, we were able to offer those as they came back in a phased approach to utilize our facilities. Our youth programs, highlighting with movie night, kickball, the summer camps. And we want to highlight in the youth programs, definitely the amount of participants that were serviced. Also not specifically highlighted on here were the participants that we were able to service through the graduations that successfully took place at the Wolf Creek Amphitheater. From our understanding, the team came together and successfully pulled that off, even in the midst of having skeleton staff. As the community wanted to phase back out and come utilize our parks and space, you'll recognize that the rentals in our pavilions went up. And of course, the events being held in our parks and our facilities also went up as well. Next slide, please. Again, this is highlighting the accomplishments that took place at our various facilities. Over at Welcome All Park, you had the unveiling of the Good Neighbor Club. That highlights our relationship with the Atlanta Hawks. We had the graduation weekend again with South Fulton, the Juneteenth celebration that took place throughout the city. And we had the district swim meets that took place over at Welcome All with the success of our swimming program. The computer lab over at Burdette Park, we were also able to secure a $30,000 donation for the baseball upgrades at Sandtown. And we're looking to implement that here, hopefully in the very near future. And we also want to look at resurfacing our playgrounds and enhancing the community gardens and dog parks in our inventory. Next slide, please. So as you can see here, the FY22 amended budget from the previous year versus what is proposed. Overall, you'll see that there's a slight increase from 4.1 million to 4.8. We are looking to build and strengthen our staff across the state. Everyone has had the challenges of securing employment in various positions. So we hope with the personnel that we're requesting this year, we'll be able to secure that. So that highlights the increase in the personnel. We also have an increase in contracted services. Following the shortage that we had with some staff, we did secure a contracting service to assist us with pressure washing and other services such as lawn maintenance throughout the parks. And you'll also see a slight increase in our supplies from $600K to $774K for the FY22 year. Next slide, please. The position control presented here, as you can see in FY22, there were 54 full-time staff. What was recognized is that we did not have a lot of part-time staff, which would definitely be vital in our operations going forward as we look to open back our facilities. So you can see the breakdown of full-time along with part-time in FY22 that's being recommended. You'll see a couple variances in certain positions. The goal is to actually go back and also look at these positions to make sure that they're functioning and entitled appropriately. That will also be discussed as we look to wrap up the master plan with Perez. And as you can see, that's the significant increase as the recreation specialist, the part-time positions going from 0 in FY21 to 14 in FY22. And you'll also see a checks and balances from some of the full-time positions as you go throughout the list of the recreation supervisor, the assistant specialist, and so on, all the way down to the park and recreation program manager. Next slide, please. This is continuing that conversation, looking at our staffing in the aquatics operation and lifeguards, whereas as you can see, we had 0 part-time lifeguards in FY21. That program continues to build and grow, so we want to continue to support those efforts with the part-time request in FY22. And you also see some variations in our ground maintenance worker, decreasing from 16 in the FY21 to 10 in FY22. Next slide, please. So again, I'll ask the question if Mayor and Council would like to entertain questions for that particular operation in Parks and Recreation, or if you would like to continue through and ask collectively after Cultural Affairs.
Alice, what's your preference?
Let them continue through. I'll go ahead and make notes.
What's the preference of everybody? Most of y'all agree with that?
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Everybody,
thank you.
Go right ahead.
All right. Thank you, sir. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Lonnie Avini to discuss Cultural Affairs.
Hi, everyone. I'm so glad I was able to join today. So we're going to talk about our goals and objectives. Our first goal is we had to establish our vision and mission since we are just reestablishing our presence with the city. So the vision is to become the best and most well-known provider of arts education and cultural activities in the nation. That's a lofty goal, but one I feel like we could start moving towards. And our mission is to produce and present high quality education, arts education, and cultural activities and events to residents who may not otherwise have access to these activities of this type, and also make culturally enriching opportunities available to all citizens. So that's our vision and our mission for the Cultural Affairs Department. Our goals and objectives to achieve that vision and mission are to employ and collaborate with top producing artists of all disciplines, maintain existing successful partnerships and develop new partnerships with private industry professionals and other governmental agencies, improve existing employee skills, and provide excellent customer service to all citizens. We'd also like to bring the facility back up to year 1 post-construction condition, upgrade the ASPA operating systems for the performance theater because we haven't had any upgrades since the theater was built pretty much. And as far as marketing is concerned, we need to really increase our Art Center visibility on the city's website, increase our email marketing campaigns, and increase our social media marketing. And we're also looking at other avenues to just get the word out there about cultural affairs. People still have questions and issues about getting information for the art centers. So that is one of our goals, to make information easily accessible to all citizens. Next slide, please. So as far as our significant accomplishments in fiscal year 21, even though we were in a pandemic, we were still able to do quite a bit. So as far as our virtual events goes, we had 10 virtual events with 3,811 total online views and counting, because people are still viewing those virtual events. Our classes, we presented 20 classes for FY21. 88 students participated in those classes, which is really low because of COVID. We had 3 elections here at Southwest. And between those 3 elections, we had 9,197 total voters come through. Our South Fulton High School graduations, we presented at Wolf Creek. We had 6 schools that graduated. I know a lot of you were there. Thank you for coming. Between those 6 graduations, we had about 12,540 total attendees. That was including graduates, parents, staff there. We did 2 art summer camps this fiscal year, FY21. We had 2 4-week sessions. We had a total of 231 kids with no incidents whatsoever. We did 8 end of the week productions that parents, families, and friends were invited to at the end of each week for our art summer camps. They did many productions on stage, and we had 623 total attendees for those 8 productions. We did 8 total exhibitions. Those were virtual and in person. We had 307 total online views for those, and we had 185 in-person views by appointment only. And then we presented 60 in-person events during FY21, and we had a total of 2,442 total attendees for those events. And those numbers would have been higher, but COVID happened. Next slide, please. So right now for our proposed budget for FY22, we're asking for $5,092 for, I'm sorry, $500,092,474 for our personnel. For our contracted services, they went up because we're looking to be completely open. So those services have gone up, and our supplies, of course, will go up because we'll be operating at full capacity. And we've also had to combine South Fulton Art Center and Southwest Art Center. So South Fulton staff is being housed over here, and we moved all of South Fulton's programming to Southwest Art Center. Therefore, our total budget has gone up significantly. When we came over to the city, it was in the middle of a fiscal year, I believe, and then we got shut down because of COVID. So we don't really have any historical data from 2019 or fiscal year 2020 because we were not operating at full capacity. Next slide, please. So a couple things have changed. We're asking for the Deputy Director for Cultural Affairs. We're asking for the Cultural Affairs Manager position to remain. Our Theatrical Production Manager position has not changed. Our Arts Education Coordinator positions have not changed. Our Audio Visual Tech position has not changed. We are in need of an admin specialist, and we are in need of 2 part-time cultural affairs specialists. Next slide, please. Well, I guess that's the end of the slides for cultural affairs. So now we open it up for questions, Travis.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Aveni. At this time, we'd like to entertain any questions by our elected officials regarding the presentations for both Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs.
as I do see Ms. Khalid and Mr. Khalid in the queue, then Ms.
I had a stomach
Willis,
problem
and
so
then
bad, I felt I needed something else. So I just stopped taking my medicine.
someone has the mic hot. I don't know who it is. But you need so Ms. Gilly, I see you haven't muted yourself.
I'm not, that's not me.
I'm just saying I seen you hadn't muted yourself. I didn't say it was you. Let's go ahead and start with Mr. Khalid, then Ms. Willis, Ms. Reeves, and then Ms. Guns.
Okay, first I want to just say thank you for well, a welcome actually to Mr. Landrum. Welcome to our little town, South Fulton. And if it's possible, if we could see them on screen, that'd be great. I know a lot of people are hearing this voice for the first time. A lot of our residents would love to see who our new parks director is. I really just had a couple of comments and one question. The first one is, as we're working on our Parks Master Plan, one of the things that we have been talking about was a SPLOST, which has, proven highly effective in financing all of these great plans and making sure they don't just stay on the shelf. So I want to make sure that that ball doesn't get dropped in this transition, and that's something that when we come back with a master plan, that we also are coming back with a way to finance it. And the second thing that we have been previously talking about was working, or let me say I had specifically been talking about with our previous parks director, was bringing on more certified educators who could partner with Fulton County schools to augment the curriculum, which I think is even more critically important now that we have as many after-school programs going in as many places as possible, because there's a lot of catching up to do, especially for our students. And then my question was for Mr. Landrum, we talked about it with the police chief. I am not aware of a single place in our 90 square mile city where people can legally ride ATVs. I know in ATL, coming from there, they had a problem with skateboards a decade or so ago, and now they have all of these skateboard parks across the city. So I hope that one of the things that we can look at in this plan and our future planning is the creation of an ATV park or two. We're more rural out here. There are a lot of people that do that. Maybe we could even use one of the 17 existing parks that might just be underutilized. And I would also like to see a trail system that connects the neighborhoods to those parks, just so that people that have these vehicles do have a place that is safe and legal to ride them. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Khalid. Ms. Willis?
Thank you. Mr. Landrum, I'm gonna make it clear. When you look for this ATV park and look for neighborhoods to connect to the ATV park, do not look in District 3 and do not look at any parks in District 3. My residents, I speak for them, would not appreciate that. So you can look at any other district, but don't look at District 3. What is the plan now that the Delta and Beta variant is on the rise for activities in do you have a plan?
Well, currently our staff are implementing safety protocols as it relates to COVID following this previous year. What we, of course, will do, we'll continue to watch the CDC guidelines and follow the leadership recommendations with the elected officials. If things happen to change and go in an unfortunate direction, we will adjust accordingly and make sure we still operate and offer our services to the best of our abilities, still keeping those COVID protocols in place at the forefront. We'll continue to train and make sure that we have the equipment, whether it be the mask or hand sanitizer, doing the temp checks. We'll continue to flow along with the CDC guidelines, regardless of which direction it goes with the COVID either variant or just overall?
Ms. Sally Jones, I believe in total transparency, and what our residents don't know is that we did have summer camp and several kids. We had some incidents of COVID positive cases. I'm not asking to put names out, but I would like that to be kept in mind as we go through this pandemic season on how we should govern ourselves accordingly. What's the concern of me is that no child.
Ms. Willis Petroleum is someone has a hot mic here. And I wish you would mute yourself. Okay, go ahead, Ms. Willis. I'm sorry.
What's a concern of mine is that no child under the age of 12 cannot be vaccinated. And so we need to keep that in mind. I would not succumb to pressure. The most important thing to me is the safety of our kids and our residents. And so please keep that in mind as we.
Ms. Willis, hold on. Mr. Neymar. Neymar. Go ahead, Ms. Willis. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to pinpoint the noise. Go right ahead, Ms. Willis.
Okay. What I was saying is that yes.
Neymar?
Yes.
Can you pinpoint that where that noise is coming from?
Okay, we'll track it.
Go ahead, Ms. Willis.
Yes, can you hear me?
Go ahead.
What I was saying is no child under the age of 12 can be vaccinated at this point. And so I just want you all to keep that in mind as you move forward with planning activities in our city. I know that residents would, you would have some to tell you that they're not going to blame the city if a child contracts COVID, but the minute we have an abundance of kids to contract COVID because of activities that are planned in our city, I can guarantee you they will have us on every news station possible in this city. And I do not want that type of press for our city. Most of all, I don't want anyone's child to be sick. Cultural arts and affairs. Do we have more virtual programming in play for that? Because that is something that we can really focus on while we're going through this. We can have plays, we can have musicals, we can do a lot in that area.
As far as virtual planning for FY2022, we do not have any virtual events planned right now. They can always be added.
Mr. Landrum, I'm just surprised to hear that that's not the case, because this pandemic has been around for over a year. So, now we're going through another spike. So if you could work with your team and Ms. Sadler Jones, if you could work with Mr. Landrum to make sure that we try to focus on getting that into play during this fiscal year, that would be great. As far as Wolf Creek Amphitheater, where are we with getting that?
Thank you. Mr. Landrum, I'll take that. Ms. Willis, we actually have a meeting that was scheduled through the mayor's office with Fulton County on next week, where we will be meeting with the chairman and the county manager and other board of commissioners and staff with Fulton County to address, when we are going to be able to have that facility transferred. I think you've heard me say it before, we thought that it would already be transferred to the city, but the county, we are still negotiating an IGA, an intergovernmental agreement with them. And so hopefully we will have that transition soon, but we are continuing to work on that, I assure you.
Because I see a concert flyer on social media for a vaccination concert to be held on the 28th. And I will hope that, some type of leverage is going to be used to get them to turn that over to our city.
As a matter of fact, I reached out to the county manager's office on yesterday because I've been hearing about this concert, but I have not been provided any specific details on the concert from the county. They had advised me through the county manager that I would be hearing from one of their staff people on yesterday. I did not hear from that individual. I have not heard from that individual today. Hopefully, if I don't hear from that person by the end of today, I will reach out to them tomorrow. But that will definitely be a conversation that we will have on Tuesday as well.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Sally Jones. Mayor, I yield at this time. Mayor.
Mr. Reeves, you're next. Thank you, Ms. Willis. Mr. Reeves, you're next.
All right, thank you so much. Well, at best, our staff would need to have tickets to that concert if it goes on, because they could be doing a music session at an actual live show. However, Mr. Landrum.
Yes, sir.
Welcome to the great city of South Fulton, sir.
Thank you.
We had heard you coming from a place where you left them with a good mark. And a
yes,
good
sir. Yes, sir.
Absolutely. So our expectation is you're going to lead us down the same direction and then further.
Well, you know, they say imitation is the highest form of flattery. So definitely looking to duplicate that. Yes, sir.
I'm trying to tell you, and I would take great pride in that. I'm not going to really go into this, but it was a 5th district over there. We're going to just, it's all good. But a couple of questions here. How soon will it be before the part-time staff is hired to support the increase in the programming and fall activities?
Well, if that is supported and approved by Mayor and Council, we'll turn to start working with HR. We actually have a discussion tomorrow to make sure that we go ahead and start moving forward with the current vacancies that we have, which we have quite a few. But as soon as we get the opportunity to move forward, that we'll do so in discussions with the assistant city manager and HR.
Awesome. And of course, these programmers will have a built-in virtual component, and just in case no in-person meetings can happen, correct?
Yes, sir. We'll make sure we have an alternative available for those opportunities. Again, just like last year when COVID came amongst all of us, we had to find that alternative to provide those programming opportunities. So we will definitely have that in place in the event we have to go that route.
Awesome. And are there with the various standards with each facility based on like the size, the programming, the facilities, the renovations, and then the non-existing ones, how are we looking as far as fees based on being equitable?
Well, we're definitely going to seek out our master plan to see if it has the fee structure component in it as well. If we're able to review that and look at our surrounding service providers to make sure that we're providing the adequate price for our services, we'll go to follow that plan as it's listed in the master plan. If it's not, then we can find another way to create our own fee study and then apply it as necessary.
Absolutely. Awesome. And so then, of course, the question that I've been getting, and I'm pretty sure some other my colleagues have been too, about the football program that was started but kind of left in limbo. Are you looking at, or have you been looking at the field permits being signed so that they can continue the football season this year until you can bring in your restructure after the season? Or are you planning to just go ahead and dismiss that and start with your restructuring immediately?
No, we're not in a situation to dismiss it. In the process of continuing to gather information and conversations, I actually spoke with another staff that was instrumental in the football program yesterday. As I'll gather that information, I'll look to schedule a meeting with the presidents of each program. And then once I gather that feedback from their meeting as well, I'll look to make a proposal to mayor and council here in the near future to see about going forward or depending on what the proposal is, what direction we should go in.
Right, right. And I know as the new Parks and Rec director, demands on meeting you are, I know, vast. And so, but however, I would like to be squeezed in there at your earliest convenience. And I like to meet with the cohorts that I have with utilizing Burdette as the community room. I would like to be in utilization even on the weekends, and it's currently not. And so to see what we can do to exercise that option. Of course, I know that comes with staff as well, probably a part-time staff. But I'm also going to share in the sentiments with my colleague, Councilman Khalid. And when you look at these ATV trails, I've seen some that goes along the railroad tracks, then some in some different areas. But also too, if there could be a little area carved out for these little streetcars, you know, they do these little donuts and they like to spin out and do all this other stuff. We can make somewhere for a little safe environment for them to be able to do that in a designated area so that our streets that's freshly paved don't have these marks of the river all over them. And so if we can look at that, they do exist. And so maybe carve out some area providing a safe environment for them to practice their little wheelies or whatever they call that, so that we could just try to mitigate those from doing it in our streets and the communities where the constituency resides. That'd be great.
Yes, sir. I'd like to add to that conversation. They do have specialized parks for ATVs or motocross you might have. I would definitely, the benefit with the city of South Fulton is that there are several areas and parcels of land that could be looked at and reviewed and considered for that type of park. I would strongly suggest with our current infrastructure, the way they're designed and the access utilized by the public, not to look into those particular parts that we currently have, but definitely if we have the ability to acquire some land and develop that in those particular areas, that is definitely something that could be considered.
Absolutely. And I also would love to see an auditorium, one that's comparable to C.T. Martin's on this side of the city as well, so that we'll have everybody can enjoy pool and the swimming program. And but then there was one more question that kind of slipped my mind, but it'll come back, I guess. But again, welcome to the great city of South Fulton. I do look forward to meeting you, as that's a solid hire by our city manager, and appreciate her for having that insight and finding you, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Councilwoman Gumbs.
Mr. Landrum, again, same sentiments as my colleagues. Thank you for joining the city of South Fulton. We are looking forward to definitely having you here and having some innovation around our parks. One quick question: have we budgeted or considered improving our Wi-Fi communications within our park systems?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I have had conversations with the IT department with Neymar to do an assessment of our facilities. I know we have some challenges over at Welcome All, over in the cultural arts operations. So there is a desire to make sure that we improve the quality of our connectivity, not only from the operational standpoint with our staff, but definitely from the standpoint of the community being able to access the Wi-Fi and utilize it in our parks. We haven't had a chance to sit down and have an in-depth conversation. We've had a surface level conversation to review where we currently are, but yes, ma'am, that is a conversation that is underway.
Okay, that was my biggest concern, improving our Wi-Fi in our park system and just, overall improving our trails. So I think I've got my questions answered, but thank you and welcome again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Landry, before we go to the next department, couple of questions.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
What I was just from earlier. Are we ending with you? Because I did remember my question.
Yeah, we ended with me.
Can I go ahead and state my question?
No, we'll get your question answered. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you for being nice. Okay, listen. Mr. Landry, let me just say something to you. Those things that are illegal, we're not in the business of making them legal if they're illegal. All right. Donuts in the road is illegal. It's all right. So I want to make sure we understand that. The other thing I want to understand is that regardless of what we may bring into our parks department that people think we need, and I'm glad you told them to look at the parks, those places before you make a decision, because some of those decisions have to be matched up with the quality of life desires that we have for our community. And some of those deals have a lot of noise, pollution, and other problems. So we have to be very, very careful if we're going to do something like that. Make sure we look at the whole gamut of it. Couple things. Number one is, I want to make sure that there's fiscal responsibility and integrity as it pertains to the use of civic rec. That's our way of measuring how we're doing. Are we getting the money or the fees for participation that we deserve? So I want you to make sure that everything, I think a lot of stuff has to go through civic rec, and I know over the years they haven't. The second thing, I want to be very clear that a contractor is just that, a contractor. A contractor is not a person who takes over our facility and runs it in a manner which they think best. That's not what contractors do. A contractor is not a person who holds events and the money doesn't run through civic rec. We don't want to do those kinds of things anymore. These facilities belong to the city of South Fulton, and just because you're a contractor, we're allowing you to provide a service, but we're not allowing you to take the facility over. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
All right. And I want to comment you to it. You know, having Lonnie on that at your side is going to be a truly asset for you. And Lonnie, I want to thank you. You have an outstanding staff over there at the Art Center that is just so customer friendly. And I wanted to acknowledge that to you because I've never seen them when they were not customer friendly.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor.
Now, I want to know, are we in compliance at the Art Center with in your preparation for the next series of events? Are we in compliance with the regulations by the Arts Guild? Lonnie?
What regulations by the Arts Guild as far as actors' equity is concerned with the HVAC cleaning?
Yeah, all of that stuff before they'll be able to come in and do plays.
Yes, sir. We're waiting for the final report.
Okay, so we have done it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, that's good. Lastly, let me just leave you with this. And once again, I want to add my congratulations to you for coming to South Fulton, Mr. Landrum. I mean, you come with a lot of folks give you high praises. So we're just glad that we had an opportunity to get you here. Lastly, let me say this. All my political career, I've been hearing this. Children don't have nothing to do. I've heard that tons and tons of times. And Lonnie can attest to this over in the Art Center. We have a wide variety of things. Just take the Art Center by itself. We have a wide variety of things that are available for children. But the problem is we can't get the classes filled up. Am I correct in saying that, Lonnie?
You are correct, Mayor.
So when people come to me and say, we ain't got nothing for the children to do, that's not true. What the issue is, you don't want to bring them to where the programs are. And you don't want to pick them up when it's over. So I would say continue to offer as much as we can for children, where we can offer it to them. And it's incumbent upon us as adults, and when we can't, the children don't drive, it's incumbent upon us. But make sure that we have those programs available, not just in the Arts Center, Mr. Landrum, but I know there are tons of programs that you do at Welcome All and other places that children can participate in. And lastly, make sure they know about them.
Yes, sir. That's our struggle, getting the information out.
They got to know what's available for the kids. So once again, thank you so much. We applaud you. I know you're gonna do a good job, and you got a lot. Get the right people around you. Let's go for it.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
You was gonna allow me to ask my question?
I was gonna, you know what? Let me do this. Let's get through this, and I'll let you answer your question. Okay. Let's get out of this. All right. Let's do the city manager, and let's go from there.
Yes, the next presentation is the city manager's office.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Good afternoon again, Mayor and Council and citizens of South Fulton who may be listening and participating in this virtual space today as we do our department head meetings for our fiscal year 2022 budget. The city manager's office, our office is responsible for managing the day-to-day operations of the city. As far as our fiscal year 2022 goals and objectives, as we have discussed previously, we will continue to be vigilant and proactive in responding to COVID-19. We are doing our part to make sure that we are trying to keep our employees safe. Very recently, this week, from my office, we have put out a directive to the staff via their directors, their department directors, that they will need to be provide proof of vaccinations before doing any live training. And so what we're trying to do is not inconvenience anybody, but of course, we're trying to make sure that when our staff go to these trainings and they are around other individuals in their training sessions, that they are vaccinated. And we, of course, again, want to try to keep them safe and keep their family safe ultimately when they return back from their trainings. It's important for me that we recruit and retain highly qualified workforce. I have mentioned to the council that it is my recommendation in the fiscal year 2022 budget that we include a 3% pay increase for all eligible employees. We are funding that mid-year. And then in addition to that, I've already mentioned to you today that I am proposing a housing allowance, a monthly housing allowance for our public safety employees who desire to live within our city limits. And this program has been done in other cities, and I think it will be very beneficial that we do it here in the city of South Fulton. And of course, it will be a pilot program, and we would like to expand it at some point and hopefully be able to do down payment assistance for our employees. But we just wanted to start at this level first and fund the project and then try to proceed on and expand it later on. We want to begin to engage our citizens. We are currently right now, of course, in our strategic plan. And then at some point, we are going to have to begin a new strategic planning process for fiscal year 2023 through fiscal year 2026. So we will begin to start thinking about how to engage our citizens because we know we have a very involved citizens here in the city of South Fulton, which I greatly appreciate that. We want to always make sure that we hear from our citizens and that they are involved in our planning processes. Also, prior to me coming here, the city did an RFP in 2019 to assist with what they call a mystery shopper program. We are working toward being an effective and excellent service delivery organization. And that particular mystery shopper program was deployed in specific facilities. And it's my understanding they went two times to about 15 facilities, and they visited places like City Hall, the fire department, Parks and Recreation, and police. And so we want to make sure we circle back and look at the information that they provided to us, and always continue to try to do what we can to enhance our customer service and the experience that our citizens or the public experiences when they come to do business here in the city of South Fulton. I want to look at trying to provide enhanced leadership training to our supervisors and our directors. I do have money proposed in my fiscal year 2022 budget to do leadership training. We want to always, again, try to focus on professional development and keep our staff with the skills that they need to do a great job for our city. Continuous improvement through citywide business process mapping. The staff person within the city manager's office who does programs and performance administration, she was very beneficial in helping us during our transition in the Parks Department. And, you know, I felt like instead of contracting with somebody, if we already have the resources in-house and an individual in-house that can come in and look at our operations in regards to some of our departments, you know, why spend that money when we can utilize what we have internally? So we will be looking at trying to go into our departments and make sure that business operations are running efficiently and effectively. And of course, you know, continue to implement the vision of the mayor and the council, continuing to work with each of you, continuing to work with our staff, continuing to, you know, lead this organization to the best of my ability. And of course, you know, integrity and serving with integrity is always very important to me. And so you have my commitment to do that as your city manager. Next slide, please. Fiscal year 21 accomplishments. The city manager's office did launch South Fulton Grows. It's a partnership with Miller City Farms, and we provided over 200 families with raw materials in order to address the food insecurities here in our city. So we are very proud of that, and hopefully we will be able to do that again. Last fiscal year, or this current fiscal year, I should say, the city, we received our official designation that we were an entitlement city from HUD, the Community Development Block Grant Funding, which we are expecting to receive $512,000. And when a city is labeled an entitlement city, that means they have over 50,000 people in population. And as we talked about, we very recently last week received information from census that we are now up to 107,000 people. So with our increased population, hopefully we will be able to see some results and do some additional things regarding grant opportunities as a result of that increased population amount. The city also implemented the Smart City Initiative. It's a partnership that we have with Comcast, where we have trash receptacles, and our Public Works Department is actually implementing this particular program, but the city manager's office, we funded it in this current fiscal year budget. We have 17 sensors that will be have been placed and installed on trash cans strategically placed throughout our city, but it's my understanding we're supposed to have a total of 33. And of course, we're trying to do our part to address trash and litter here in our city, and we encourage our citizens to use the trash receptacles. Please don't drop your litter on the ground, and continue to help keep the city of South Fulton a beautiful city. We successfully launched the Gladiator Benefits Program through the CARES Act money. We were able to provide payouts to our eligible employees that range from code enforcement down to our public safety staff. and other department directors as well. So we were glad that we were able to use that money to do that. And speaking of CARES, we received $4.1 million through Fulton County, and we were able to do rental and mortgage assistance programs, small business grants programs, childcare for our employees. We purchased PPE, and I know that this council at the last work session, I believe you wanted to find out what that inventory is, and we are preparing that for you, and we are preparing to assist with getting those N95 masks out citywide. Through the assistance of our contracted lobbyist, Mr. Andrew Long, we were successful through a team effort in annexing Fulton Industrial Boulevard. And I want to definitely thank Mr. Long for the great work that he did. His particular contract is within the city manager's office. And then we're hoping maybe at some point that we can expand that to have him help us out on a federal level, because our city being a new city, we need to make our name known on the federal level and in DC. And so it is important that we have somebody there lobbying on our behalf so we can be the recipients of federal funding that may be coming down to cities. So we certainly want to continue that program in fiscal year 22. Next slide. One other thing I wanted to mention that I see did not get included was another significant accomplishment had to do with our chaplaincy program. Our lead chaplain trained and graduated 12 residents through the chaplains program. Those individuals went from candidates to certified volunteer chaplains. The chaplain was responsible for a training education program that focused on classroom training, field training, and it touched on the 5 branches of the chaplaincy program. So I think that is definitely worth noting as a significant accomplishment for fiscal year 22. The proposed fiscal year 22 budget for our personnel, you see that went down. We are recommending that our chaplain position be moved to the police department. As we talked about, we now have 107 residents, and as you know, our city's needs change, I feel like the chaplain can assist in our community outreach efforts. Many of the things that this particular position does relates to law enforcement. So in trying to better utilize that particular position, that is the reason why I am making that change. I do realize that my predecessor in 2019 took an administrative action and moved that position from the police department to the city manager's office. But now, in fiscal year 22, again, as our needs change, as our city changes, I think it is important, that we are able to tap into the resources that we have over in the police department and better utilize that particular position to help with much needed outreach and maintain that visibility, maintain that availability, maintain that adaptability and credibility for all of our personnel and citizens within the city of South Fulton. So I would like to ask for the council's support in doing that. Purchase contracted service. Again, I mentioned, we have Mr. Long's contract. We are looking at leadership training. Other, type services are in the purchase contracted services. Supplies, the supplies to run our office. And of course, our total operating budget would be $290,000 for a total to include personnel and the operating budget for a little over $1 million. So the next slide again shows the positions within the city manager's office. I am recommending that we not fund the management and policy analyst 1, the constituent affairs coordinator. I'm recommending that we not fund that. With the tight budget that we had this year, I really had to, make some hard decisions and really look at the operations of the city manager's office and streamline where I felt was important. And, this council has given me the authority to handle personnel matters. So I wanted to do what I thought was in the best interest of the city and the department, and just try to streamline in areas. And of course, you know, everybody wants to have more staff. And surely if we needed those particular positions, I would have recommended them. But I just feel like right now we have the sufficient amount of people that we need in the city manager's office. So with that said, I will be glad to take any questions that you may have. And Mayor, before you begin the questions, I would like to say, you know, we want to thank you and the council for the time that we have spent with you. It's been some long days. We were here all day, pretty much on Tuesday, and we've been here all day today, but this was very important for us that we provide you with the information about our departments. And I want to thank all of our department heads for their participation and their loyalty and dedication to their departments, and you know how they have been very, very active in helping us put this budget together. And I couldn't do what I do without having the assistance of our great staff. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Sally Jones. And Ms. Willis, you're up.
Thank you. Ms. Sally Jones, would that 3% increase include our legislative specialists?
Absolutely. That would be citywide for eligible employees. So yes, that would include the legislative specialist.
Okay, thank you. My next question is, when are you planning on presenting the plan for the AARP funds? I know that food insecurity is one that I've been working with you on, and you received several proposals.
Yes, ma'am.
So when are you going to present the plan?
Yes. So I had mentioned at the work session that we are waiting to receive the final guidelines from the U.S. Department of Treasury. We do have a proposed list that we have together, but we just want to make sure that all the guidelines set forth by the federal government, that we can in fact do these particular positions or projects rather that we have. And so I will be getting that to you very soon. It's my understanding from GMA that we should have those guidelines by the end of this month or 1st of September. So I'm hoping that we will have them by the end of the month, and then I can make a presentation to you all in the month of September. But I am, you know, anxiously, you know, waiting for those guidelines. And I want to thank, you know, our contracted grants administrator who has come back on board to assist us in making sure that we are following the rules for the American Rescue Plan money.
Okay, thank you. What is the $500,000 HUD funding going to be used for?
We have possibly we're going to be doing like chair lifts. Any of the projects that you do through HUD have to be for low to moderate income. And so we have specific guidelines on what that's going to be used for. For example, also rent and mortgage assistance. We can use it for that. I don't have my list in front of me. I was trying to anticipate everything the council would be asking, and I don't have that in front of me, but those are just kind of some of the things. And even, you know, with some of our capital projects or some of the other operating type initiatives that we're doing within our department, if we can use CDBG funds for those purposes, we will be using those funds to offset the general fund.
So are we allowed to use any of those funds to help with demolition of some of the blighted property in our city?
Yes, you can use it for that.
Okay, because I would like to ask that we set aside some funds to continue addressing the blight in our city.
Okay.
And then lastly, what are the next steps? I mean, you all did a great job with the budget presentations, and I really want to thank you and staff for taking time out and presenting to this council. I know that you heard a lot of recommendations from all of us, and I plan to summarize mine and send it to you when I finish getting through the tape from from Tuesday. What are the next steps though?
Well, the next steps will be just as you mentioned. We will, the team, we will get back together again and discuss the recommendations and the questions that were presented to us. Again, I do, have to stress to the council, the budget that you currently have in front of you is a balanced budget. We were very diligent in trying to go through and make sure that, we had a balanced budget, and it continued to also have the fund balance that we need based upon GFOA. But we will go back. We've heard some requests, and we will see where we can make the necessary adjustments. And then we will, bring that information back to you. I will email it to you. But as far as next steps regarding the budget, we're supposed to have a third public hearing and adoption of the millage rate on Tuesday, August 24th at the 4 p.m. City Council meeting. And then we're supposed to have the first public hearing and reading of the fiscal year 2022 budget on Wednesday, September the 8th at 10 a.m. So we have a lot, that we're going to have to do over the next 2 weeks or so before that September 8th meeting.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I yield, and I appreciate Ms. Sally Jones. You've been with us, close to, when did you get here? October?
Yes, I've been here 10 months.
Okay, you have gone through a lot and encountered a lot and done a lot over the 10 months. And I appreciate having experienced leadership at the helm. And for the most part, I think you've done a good job. No one is perfect, but for 10 months, for what you have had to encounter and what you have inherited and what you continue to have to work through by inheriting, I think you have done a great job thus far.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for the support of the council.
Thank you, Ms. Willis. Ms. Rao, you're next. Dr. Rao?
Yes, thank you. Ms. Sadler Jones, thank you for the presentation. I know this is a follow-on to the question that Councilwoman Willis answered. I know that with that CDBG funding, we had to submit a HUD action plan and how that money would be spent. Is it possible that you could send that plan, because we have to spend according to that? Can you send that to the entire council?
Yes,
I think we saw something early on. It's been a while, but I think just bringing that back up is because it's been a while since that was shared.
Okay, yeah, we can send that out because we very recently submitted our consolidated plan and our action plan to HUD. And it's my understanding that they have a 45-day review process, but we will send you out what we sent to them.
Thank you. And then as it relates to just implementation of some of the, one of the things we've been talking about is the broadband. We've touched on that a little bit, but to me it's foundational too in terms of some of the smart city initiatives that we've talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Can you speak to that anymore in terms of how we are be moving to make sure that that coverage is available throughout the whole city?
Okay, I will do a high level, but then Mr. Neymar Strickland will probably be he is my subject matter expert in this area, but we will be proposing $1.3 million for broadband and Wi-Fi capabilities through the American Rescue Plan money. We do know that, broadband is one of those areas that is allowable for usage of those funds. Mr. Strickland, are you there?
Yes.
Okay. Can you speak to broadband, please?
Yes. So we're looking at. We met with a partner actually yesterday, as recent as yesterday, speaking about it with some of the grants and things that we've been proposed to us. There's a big kind of catch-22 between you have to partner with carriers and not. So what we're looking at is finding a vendor that can kind of fill the void between the two, between us and our capabilities and the vendor partnerships. So with the funding that we have available, we're just looking for partners that can fill the gap. And that's I think we've talked to two vendors to help with the process. And it ranges from 50, I think they said 50,000 to kind of do a review and help us get connected. The other, we hadn't got the quotes back yet. So within the funding that is allotted, I think we'll be able to make a much better progress in the coming year as it relates to that coverage.
Follow-on question, do you feel like you have a complete assessment of where we don't have coverage? Do we really have a grasp of that citywide? I know Councilwoman Gilliard has talked about it being an issue in 4, but even the areas that have it, it's not as reliable as you would like. And I just want to know if whatever assessments we're doing, we're looking at the reliability, even in the areas where it currently exists.
Yeah, that's a good point. We've been primarily relying on the data collected by the state and the federal government. There's an assessment is going to be one big part of that, because even not just broadband, but even cell phone coverage, we're finding that although there's been a lot of monies put in from the carriers, the service in the areas that we have are still not as reliable as you're alluding to. So I think for us, as a part of the funding as well, a good survey of our territory or verifying the surveys that have been done by the state and the federal government is going to be something to really look at. And even partnerships with these surrounding cities, like I think East Point, for example, they're going down the path of doing some improvements. So we've been working with different partners that are working with some of our surrounding cities also to see if not only that we can help address our needs, but take advantage of the work that's already been done in our surrounding cities as well.
Thank you.
Is that all, Dr. Ross? Dr.
Yes,
Ross?
that's it.
Okay, thank you so much. Mr. Khalid? Mr. Khalid? Let me go on to Ms. Gums, and I'll come back if Mr. Khalid's available. Ms. Gums?
Thank you for recognizing me, Mayor. City Manager Sally Jones, I think you're doing a wonderful job, and thank you so much for your hard efforts over the past 10 months. I do have a question, and this probably, I don't know if this will come out of your office, but there's still a concern for me in regards to the short-term rental that is happening throughout our city. And I didn't hear much discussed about that through our presentations that I received from, I guess, the Code Enforcement Department. Are we still managing the host compliance program to monitor the short-term rentals and party houses?
That is my understanding, that we are still hosting that.
Okay, and that will continue, and we have funding for that in 2022?
I believe we do, but if you will let me check and follow up, I will check into that for you.
Okay, because that's something that, I really think that we need to, maintain and keep moving forward with trying to, put a dent in these short-term rentals that are unauthorized in our city.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Reeves, since it's at the time where you want to make your other remember
Mr.
that.
Chair, thank you so much for recognizing me.
I'm not finished. Wait a minute. Since we're at the county manager's portion, please ask your question that we missed the last time, okay?
Thank you, sir. Ms. Clerk, you have 5 more minutes of my time too. No, I'm just kidding. So, but this go back to cultural affairs, because she said something that she said they combined South Fulton Arts Center and Southwest Arts Center.
Yes, sir. Programming is combined for both of those art centers. South Fulton Art Center is currently under renovation.
Under renovation, so y'all can bring the programming back. Oh yeah.
That is our goal, to bring programming back to South Fulton once it reopens.
Oh, because I was going to ask if that was the case, and so if it was not going to be, I was going to make a suggestion that if it's under renovation, and so part of that be a kind of a gallery to serve as a place where youth can showcase their artwork. So I don't know if that was the plan anyway or not. But
we currently have 2 gallery spaces. At
Oh, we do?
Southwest, we have our fine art gallery in the theater, and then we use our walls in our studio building as gallery
Yes.
space as well. So if
Yeah,
you haven't been over here, I suggest you come view our quilt exhibition. It is a fabulous exhibition. It is currently in our studio
Now-
building and in our theater gallery.
Right now, I have not been seeing the quilt. I have not seen that one. But I will try to make a dash over there. And how long is it there until?
The 27th, and it is quite beautiful.
Okay, and the public can still come in and view that, correct?
Absolutely.
Right. So,
But you have to make sure you have your mask on and you have to temperature check when you walk in the door.
but you don't have to have a vaccination card.
Right now, city facilities are not requiring visitors to present proof of vaccination or negative COVID tests.
Okay, that was for the edification of the public there. But I do want to, however, because I did make the suggestion that, but on the one of the wall they have the mayor and council on there, and I asked that Madam City Manager, whoever is responsible for that those pictures go in every facility that the city has, if that can be possible. But thank you, Solandia. I appreciate your comments. And but Madam City Manager,
absolutely.
I have a question on the chaplaincy deal. So it was under your department, and so now it's moving over to the police. Should that not be its own autonomous department or deal? Because I'm just thinking that, chaplains deal with so much. We have people who within the city who deal with a lot as well. And if they go to a chaplain, they talk to them, think it's sort of kind of maybe I don't know, for lack of better terminology, confessions, or just talking like I'm talking to my pastor, or I'm talking to a part of the priesthood, and that information would be confidential. If it was under somebody that could be problematic, because they can, they have to disclose what was said. But if it was on its own autonomy, because you have people, regular staff members, who just sometimes they just need to let off just something that's on their mind, on their heart, or whatever, but also feel in an environment where they're safe to make that transaction. But in their minds, they're talking to somebody that will be able to keep that confidential as a attorney-client privilege type of situation. So I'm not sure if that's under anybody would be the way that I would envision that, but however you see it, but if that's a thought process, because I do think about that.
Yes, sir. That won't change. I mean, confidentiality with the chaplain will remain the same, whether it's going back to the police department or whether it's in my office. I mean, that will not change.
Okay, because who is that?
The job description won't change.
Right, who are they responsible to? Are they responding under the chief directly, or just under the police department as a?
Well, the chief and I had discussed supervision specifically. I think that will be at his discretion, where he feels like the position needs to report to on a day-to-day basis. Typically I leave that up again to the discretion of the department heads. I've done other reorganizations here in the last 10 months. And, it hasn't been a problem, and I don't expect for it to be a problem. So, again, that would be something that Chief Meadows would have to determine. But I did, talk to him about the idea of putting the office of the chaplain as a direct report to him.
Okay. All right. Well, as long as there's no changes there, so I know that you have made great decisions so far, with 10 being a perfect score there. So I do appreciate all that you do, madam. So thank you much. That's it. And thank you, Chair, for allowing me to ask some questions.
Mr. Mayor, I don't know if you have me in your queue, but can you please put me in your line? I do have a hand raised.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Adams, are you keeping up with the queue? Helping the mayor keep up with the queue?
Yeah, I have it. Mr. Mayor, are you there?
Yeah, I don't need no help keeping the ain't in there. I just saw his hand raised. And
it's two of us that have our hand raised. That's why I said that's why I asked.
as well as I have your hand raised. I have Mr. Baker's hand raised. But
Rao had her hands raised too.
Mr. Baker, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Thank you for acknowledging me. That's my only option as far as the hand raise. Thank you again. And thank you, City Manager Sally Jones, for your report. And my concern is something similar to the sentiments of Councilmember Reeves, but I think before you gave your answer, you actually gave a resolve, but I don't know if you changed your mind because you ended with that the chaplain's program would report directly to the police chief. And if that's the concession, I could definitely deal with that as far as, supporting that change. If it was a direct report to the chief, again, I know that you understood that this was with Mr. Dono and why he did it. We conversed about it on Tuesday in the meeting briefly. But I think that we have a unique situation when it comes to who heads that program, simply because we have someone who's skilled and trained and just an excellent person for the position. I believe Pastor Henry is not only certified in law enforcement, he's also certified in fire. So just because we have a remarkable individual to hold the position now, I believe the position should be the position regardless of who holds the position. And I think a lot of the progress has been due to the autonomy. Again, I like to reference all of the situations that I've had to deal with that program and how without a lot of the red tape that sometimes law enforcement requires, unless, and I took it under consideration that, there are reaches when it comes to funding as well that may be a contributing factor. And only you could attest to that. Having it under law enforcement may free up or may allow a reach to other funds as well to support that department. And that's why I say if the concession is what you said at the end, and I heard you correct to say that this department will be a direct report to the chief, then I would definitely support it. But can you just provide clarity in that last statement you made?
Sure. I did speak with Chief Meadows, and it was a conversation that he and I had about him having the chaplain report directly to him. I know that he does have other positions that report directly to him. And if I'm not mistaken, and Mr. Toms was actually a witness to the conversation we had. I know he said that he has the deputy chief reporting to him. And then, of course, the majors report directly to the deputy chief, if I'm not mistaken. So, I didn't intend for this to be a big issue regarding the reporting of the chaplain, the office of the chaplain. But if that, is the will of this council to support me in making that move, I will direct the police chief that position will report to him.
And I appreciate that. And I just, the only reason why I stand out on that is because of, like, we have access to the police chief, and I don't think that he would even like us going down his ranks as far as communicating directly with council, given that we have a line with him, and really our line is to you through him.
Right.
So I appreciate that concession. Thank you so much for all you do.
Okay,
right,
thank you.
Baker. Mr. Khalid, are you in now? Mr. Khalid, are you in? Okay, Mr. Khalid, are you there? Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Willis.
You know, I watched the tape from Tuesday and saw this, and it appears like this is becoming a big issue, and I don't understand why. Chaplaincy is new to our city, but it's not new to municipalities. Here in Savannah, you know, my uncle was the first African American chaplain, and he served as chaplain for 25 years. And one of the things that I did was research. I researched to see what other cities are doing, what chaplaincies, what the chaplains are in other cities. And Miss Sally Jones has not steered us wrong yet. Every time I fact checked her, and yes, Miss Sally Jones, I do fact check you. I know you know what you're doing. But and when you brought this to my attention, you know, I had hesitancy too, because I wanted to make sure that what had the ability to be, be able to do his job and also be confidential. And you're exactly right. The chaplain is under the police chief. I mean, how they report to is up to the police chief, but I mean, it's in the police department. It's in the police department for various reasons, because that is who touches the community at most. And I remember coming up in Savannah, my uncle being there for residents, being there for employees, and being there for officers. So we're really making a big deal out of something that's really not a big deal. You know, Mrs. Sally Jones is correct in her suggestion. I think that we should allow her to, I think we should respect her decision. The person that we have in this role is awesome. He does amazing things. He will still be able to be awesome and do amazing things. And I don't think we should, interfere beyond that.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Willis.
I am one of the sponsors of this program, and I am still supportive of this program, but I respect the decision of the city manager. Thank you, and I yield.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Rao?
Yes, this is a kind of follow-on to yesterday's conversation, and I think I started down with questioning as it relates to whatever our new model would look like with code enforcement. We know that it will be moved from CDRA. I would just ask that the city manager and assistant city manager examine if it should be independent or revisit whether it's a fit under the police department. I really want to make sure that we are taking code enforcement to the next level. And I think, as I mentioned yesterday, the technology and the reporting on a code enforcement inspector basis is something I'm really interested in seeing, to find out how large that department really needs to be. I recall previous concerns around safety being raised. And the more that I've thought about it, it may make sense with the support that can be rendered under the police department. So before you come back with your final recommendation, please look at all of that. That's just a request I have.
Okay, thank you. We will.
Thank you, Ms. Rao. Ms. Sally Jones, a couple of things for me. On the mystery shopper deal that you're doing for our facilities, make sure that the results of that is dispensed out to all the council people, okay?
Okay.
And you and I have talked about the fact that we can elevate that program not only to our facilities, but to our businesses in our area, to get them some feedback on what they're doing good and they're doing bad. So I wanted to say that. Now,
okay.
let me ask you a question. on this chaplain thing, right? First of all, do you have the authority to move him if you want to?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay, that's a good point. Secondly, are you changing his salary?
No. No, sir.
Thirdly, does his job description change in?
No, sir, it does not.
So I asked those questions to say this, and I think Miss Willis said it. We hire this lady and pay her a pretty good salary to make decisions in her office. And I've always told her this: I will give you my suggestion as to what I think, but I'm not going to make a decision for you. You can take my decisions and you take my suggestion, go one way or the other, but I'm not going to make a decision for you. And she's done quite a great job. Let me ask you another question. We have chaplains, associate chaplains, right?
Yes, we have 12.
What uniforms do they wear?
Their uniforms are purchased through the police department, so I guess you can say it looks like a police officer uniform with the colors and the reflective gear that's on there.
And I'm sorry, I didn't want to make the implication. I just want, what I was really getting to is that did the police department pay for the uniforms?
Yes, sir. The police department paid for the uniforms.
Okay.
The current uniforms that they have, and I believe that the chaplain has requested that they also be given additional fire uniforms too.
Okay, so what I'm going to do, I've made my point. I'm going to acknowledge to Dr. Baker and Mr. Khalid, but you have the right, as a city manager, to run this city, and I'm going to stick by you. You know, in terms of right, I will put my input, but you have the right to run this city, and you need to do what you think is best in for the city, based on your knowledge and based on the experience that has happened in the area. So I would support your decision whichever way you go. Okay, Mr. Baker.
Yes, sir. Thank you for acknowledging me. And I just want to say that when I've been on the call since 10 o'clock, like everyone else, and we've heard from every department, including the city manager. And so when someone gives a recommendation, it's simply a recommendation. So if I don't necessarily stand with the recommendation or I defer, I believe it's disingenuous to imply that I don't support the city manager, and as if like to support the city manager's decision means to support everything that he or she may contend in a vacuum. I think that we all have our various reasons. I respect others. I feel the way I feel. I stated it, and I respect everyone's opinion. Right. I appreciate the concession that she was willing to make. I just stand alone by saying that, and I'll be a little bit more overtly transparent, since we hear oftentimes about the other hats that so many people have worn. I've worked in law enforcement as well. I've held rank in law enforcement as well. And I do know that holding rank, when I said, when she said after Councilman Reeves stated, it'll be a direct report to the police chief, I think nobody had a problem with that, including myself. But picture Pastor Henry not being who he is in that position. And now when it's a time for us as council members who are often told to stay in our lanes, we have to find their reporting officer. And now we're going down the chain of command of law enforcement officers when the only person I have on speed dial is our city manager, and I have our police chief's number. He gives that out all the time. He wants us to reach directly to him. He allows the citizens to do it as well. So I guess what I'm saying is, if that is the reason, and also who's to say, and I know the chief's discretion is great. I don't think he would mismanage the position at all. I just don't like it to be implied that if someone doesn't agree in totality with the city manager, that we are not allowing her to do her job, or we don't trust her to make the best or right decisions. I think that as a council, that's why she reports to us, for us to have discretion and say. So, I mean, I just want to give a little pushback towards the way it's implied, as if we need to just accept everything that's given to us in its totality. I yield.
Thank you, Dr. Baker. I don't know where they came from, but that's not what I said, but I'll continue on with Mr. Khalid.
Hey, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Thank you. I think the storm was, anyway, I feel like I should have something to say about the chaplaincy. I have an entirely different comment, and it is about the housing allowance for our public safety. I think that is a great incentive, but I would like to suggest, propose, urge, recommend that we expand that housing allowance to our parks department and our code enforcement department. I would really love to see us start with them first. I say that because back in 2018, when Dr. Baker and I were working to raise the city's minimum wage, those were the lowest wage workers in our city. And I think the take-home cars and the housing allowances and all of those perks, I would just like to see them more equitably distributed amongst the other departments in our city. But the other reason that I think it's important is because people in parks and people in code enforcement, they work directly with our youth every day, and they are the ones that are responsible for cleaning up our city. As we bring in public works, our own public works people, I would like to see them be eligible for the program as well. I'm thinking of neighborhoods where we have illegal dumping, and having a code enforcement officer living on the block who can witness and offer affidavits of exactly who in the neighborhood is dumping trash, and maybe even have a code enforcement vehicle sitting in their driveway. And I'm thinking, Dr. Baker, of troubled youth in our neighborhoods that nobody can reach except maybe their football coach or their basketball coach. Guys like Coach Lamar on Old Nat and Coach Outlaw at Burdette Park. If we could help people like that, many of whom, as we heard from Mr. Landrum, are going to be part-time workers, with these low salaries, if we could help them own a piece of our city and live in the neighborhoods with the children that they're working with, I just think that would be awesome. So I just ask humbly for you to think about expanding the program in that way. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Khalid. Is there anything else on the agenda? Mr. Clerk, I think that's it, but let me just say one thing. I want to go back to the chaplain. I created the chaplains program for unincorporated South Fulton. We didn't have a chaplain for many, many years. I chose the chaplain you have now because of his personality, his characteristics, and his willingness to serve. And he's been serving in that capacity for as long as I know. I feel that no matter where he goes, he's going to do a good job. So there's no reflection on any of that. I'm not assuming anybody don't have the right to do anything. I just stated what I had to say, and I've been saying that since day one to every city manager who's coming in. Okay. With having that said, I'd like a motion to adjourn.
I mean, do we have to vote? Bye. Can we just say bye? Because we're not supposed to be voting. It's a budget hearing.
I move that we adjourn.
Let's just do it officially. Second, Helen.
Okay, second.
Properly moved and second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Let's
make a motion to adjourn.
We've already done that.
Let's vote, please.
Roll call vote to adjourn. Councilmember Rao.
Yes.
Councilmember Gums.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Willis.
Yes.
Councilmember Gilliard.
Yes.
Councilmember Reeves.
Aye.
Councilmember Khalid.
Yes.
Councilmember Baker. I think that's, yes, we are adjourned at 4:30 p.m.
Thank you, staff.
Thank you all, everybody. Appreciate everything.